to the job. There were many calls for him to be sacked last year, but he managed to guide Hearts to the Cup final, and that, in a way, was a stay of execution for him. But as the results this year didn't get any better, he cited excuse after excuse about players that were injured and players that he didn't have at his disposal. And quite simply, watching the football, and I've been at Tynecastle on many an occasion, the football was not great to watch. It was from a bygone era, and I think Hearts fans had had enough. And many of us in Scotland thought it's only a matter of time. Now the search is on for his replacement.
Well, you mentioned Cup game there, and of course on Sunday they take on Rangers in the Cup semi-final, and Austin Murphy's basically got a free hit in this one, hasn't he?
Well, he might have a free hit. I would suggest that if Ant Budge has been looking around at the moment for a replacement for him, it would be great to get the new manager in and galvanise the support, possibly the players, and somehow come up with a result in a semi-final where the bookies have Rangers red-hot favourites. I think Rangers will wipe the floor with Hearts. But if suddenly someone come in, and if you're talking about who potentially could come in, you know, Jack Ross is available, the former Sunderland manager. Over and above that, you have Stephen Robinson, the Motherwell boss, you know, producing a really good, gifted team at Fair Park. And then you have a former Hearts favourite, John Robertson, who's doing a sterling job up at Inverness as well. And he'd been there before. But the only thing he fell foul of at Hearts was, an owner, Vladimir Romanov, who basically wouldn't let anybody manage, and I think the less said about him, the better. But that's the type of candidates, and believe me, there'll be about 50 or 60 top-drawer candidates trying to get this job.
I've forgotten about Vladimir Romanov. I'm glad you mentioned him. That's brought a little smile back to my face. I apologise, Hearts
forgotten
fans.
About you. He's got your name on a list.
Oh, yeah, those were lively days, weren't they? Yeah, it's an interesting one because it does feel like they've been thinking about this for a while. Look, it is the thick end of 5 o'clock on a Thursday, but if they could get someone in ahead of Sunday, you're absolutely right. The uplift, the impact it could have, could be massive.
Oh, it's absolutely huge. If it was me, I was looking at it and you're thinking, well, can you get someone in his top drawer who really isn't a bad manager and the CV still holds up and stands up, and he also knows what Hearts are all about? I would go for Jack Ross. He's been there as a coach before. I would get him in and he could actually get them well organised to at least put up a better fight against Rangers at the money. Set things right on the park. Can you get us to a final by hook or by crook?
Peter Martin joining us earlier, reacting to the news that Hearts have sacked manager Craig Levein. It is TalkSport 2 today. It's Press Conference Thursday. TalkSport 2 live with Russ Hargreaves. Coming your way at 6 o'clock here on TalkSport 2.
Press Conference Thursday on TalkSport 2.
Movember Deadline Day on TalkSport. This Movember, whatever you grow will save a bro. Every moustache will raise awareness, raise funds, start conversations and save lives. Sign up at Movember.com and help change the face of men's health.
Drivers, it's time to rise up and step up to a new Vauxhall SUV. With £4,000 guaranteed scrappage or part exchange value with 4.9% APR representative. Drivers, it's time to trade up. Search Vauxhall Trade Up or visit your local Vauxhall retailer now. T's and C's apply. Trade-in car must be registered in your name for at least 90 days. Conditional sale and personal contract purchase only. Subject to status 18 plus Vauxhall Finance. Other deposit contributions may be available if you don't have a trade-in vehicle. Ends 26th of November.
This Movember, here's to the straggly moustaches. The lopsided ones. The itchy, ratty, ferrety ones. The hey, I look good with this ones. The absolutely filthy ones. The ones. The black, blonde, red and grey ones. The ones grown by Dad. The ones grown for Dad. All moustaches raise awareness, raise funds, start conversations and save lives. Because whatever you grow will save a bro. Sign up now at Movember.com.
With school runs costing as little as 2p per mile, the electric car is now the car. Search Go Ultra Low to find out more. Cost based on economy 7 and may vary.
At your local Dulux Decorator Centre, we know that any time not spent on the job is costing you money. So when you said, I don't want to hang around, I need to be in and out, we said, we've got you covered. That's why when you order online, your products will be ready to collect when you need them. Which all goes to prove, at Dulux Decorator Centre, it's you that's number one. Head over to your local store or duluxdecoratorcentre.co.uk to find out more. Dulux Decorator Centre. centred on you.
At DFS, autumn-winter collection sofas are up to half price. Many are guaranteed to be delivered before Christmas. Until Monday, get early bird extra savings on selected sofas. DFS.
TalkSport 2, traffic and travel with checkertrade.com. If you want a tradesperson who's been checked, choose us. Visit checkertrade.com today. Checkertrade.com.
In Merseyside, the M57 has been closed since this morning in both directions between junctions 6 and 4. That's for ongoing investigation work. Into West Yorkshire for the M62, the westbound carriage rate that's building up where there is a breakdown as you go towards Gildersome at junction 27. Now the M1 northbound has delays coming out of Buckinghamshire just after junction 14 at Milton Keynes. A lane here is closed off for a breakdown. And the M2 in Antrim has westbound delays as you go towards junction 1 as a lorry has broken down on a roundabout. I'm Hannah Trinder.
Anyone that's finished a marathon or held a newborn will know that although you're not the first to experience it, the feeling is no less special, just like an approved used Audi. Especially now, with deposit contributions from £300 to £5,000 on selected models until 31st of October at 10.9% APR representative, an Audi doesn't have to be new to be everything you dreamed of. Search Audi approved. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik. With Solutions Personal Contract Plan, 18s and over, subject to status, for approved used Audis bought before 31st of October 2019 from participating centres. Excludes TT, R8, S and RS models. Indemnities may be required. Audi Financial Services.
Game day this Saturday.
Watford versus Chelsea. Kick-off 5:30 on TalkSport.
Official broadcast partner of the Premier League. This is Press Conference Thursday on TalkSport 2.
A very good afternoon to you. Welcome along. It is TalkSport 2 today, this Thursday afternoon, this Press Conference Thursday. Of course, we'll do it all again tomorrow, hearing from the managers during Press Conference Friday. Headlines this afternoon, though. Tottenham have given 48 supporters indefinite bans after they sold tickets onto Red Star Belgrade supporters for their recent Champions League match. Hearts have announced the sacking of Craig Levein. He will not go back to his role as Director of Football either. Jamie O'Hara has accused Derby County of letting Richard Keogh down when he potentially needs them most. And England have named an unchanged starting 15 for the World Cup final. Eddie Jones reckons they couldn't be more ready. Let's turn our attention to boxing now, and this Saturday, Anthony Crolla will face Spain's Frank Urquiaga for the WBA Continental Lightweight title. It is fight number 45 and out for Crolla, as he told Max Rushton and Steve Harmison on TalkSport earlier. This will be his retirement fight, and there will be no returning after this one.
I mean it, and I've told my mum that this is my last one, so I stick by my word. And listen, the temptation will always be there as a fighter. It never really leaves you. I think we've seen that recently with Nigel Benn. But I think you've got to try and feed that hunger in different ways. And my way is going to be trying to, be involved in coaching, spend a lot of time with my amateur club. And, stay involved in the sport. Boxing is a huge part of my life. It always has been, always will be. So hopefully I can, like you say, feed that hunger. It'll never really truly go, but I can feed it the best I can.
What made you feel that now is the right time?
I just, I've achieved what I wanted to out of this game. I come into this game with this sport. It's hardly a game, but I come into this sport with two goals. One was to become a world champion, which I've achieved. That was the ultimate. And then with that was to get an house out of boxing. And, I see my mum and dad, they graft for 30 odd years to pay an house off. And I just think if your house is paid off, life's just a little bit easier. It's not talking about living glamorous or anything like that, but life's just a little bit easier. And I've done both those things and a little bit more. So you've got to be satisfied and know when the time is right.
And how special is it going to be, Anthony? Manchester Arena, 8 years. You after making your debut at Manchester Arena, you win the world title, and to finish in front of your own people, go out your way. How special would it be? Not only just to win, but to fight there for one last time.
There's no place I'd rather do it. It's just over 13 years since I made my debut there, so it's a long time. It's if it wouldn't have been at Manchester, I probably wouldn't have done it. Whether I would have retired after the summer, I don't know. But I remember landing in Ibiza in August, and I got the text through off Edda, November the 2nd with the eyes emoji, and yeah, I was it sealed it for me. So no, yeah, I think for a while now I've always thought I'm going to have one more fight whenever Eddie comes back to Manchester, and it was coming back November the 2nd, and yeah, this is it, almost there.
Does winning matter? That must sound like a silly question, but I just wonder on this day, you know, when you get in there, you're not treating this as a kind of farewell thing. You'll do that afterwards.
No way. It's not a testimonial or anything like that. It's of course, and that's the most important thing to me on Saturday. It's going out there on a high, and you know, in the gym I felt fantastic, and the lads in the gym who were honest with me, and they're like, some of them don't think I'm doing the right thing retiring, but I believe the time's right, and I'd rather them be speaking like that than saying, I'm glad this is your last one. On Saturday, like I say, for me, it's important to go out on a high, and, you know, my opponent's got nothing to lose. I just, like I say, I just want to keep it strictly business, and I want to go out there Saturday night, keep emotions aside, and go out there and put on a performance.
What will you miss the most, and what will you miss the least?
These nights at the Manchester Arena have been so special to me. You know, from an arena you go to as a little boy, watching the greatest British boxing. I say it time and time again, to fight there year in, year out. It's living the dream, and you know, knowing that I'm not going to have that no more, that's probably hard to take. But like you say, I've got to be thankful for what I've had, and what won't I miss? Do you know, believe it or not, it's not anything training-wise. I've got a sweet...
Worry about what date it is. What is a date?
Well, to be honest, that's true, because yesterday you said, when am I flying to be with the England squad? I don't know what date it is.
Dates are...
Well, they're quite important.
I just look on the morning. I look at the morning and I go, oh, it's Friday, or it's Thursday. I don't even look at what...
Prescription products require an online physician consultation and are only available if the physician determines a prescription is appropriate. Subscription required. See website for full details and important safety information.
Hey guys, good news. The outrageously expensive little blue pill is now generic, which means you can get the prescription medication to treat ED at affordable prices. And Hims makes it extra affordable. You pay just $30 for a month's supply. And right now...
competition or something, you know, once you've been doing something for so long. I've been boxing for 22 years. You know, you need something to channel that sort of competition in you towards something. But I'm not sure. It's you know, we'll see. I look after myself. I'll always look after myself. It's important. But I've got a gym there, and like I say, I spend a lot of time in the amateur club, managing, trainer, fight myself. Whether I'll take a little stable on in time, I'm not sure. Hopefully bits of the punditry, what I do, really enjoy that, talking about what I love. So hopefully plenty of stuff for me.
It's interesting that the thing you'll miss the most, the thing you'll miss the least. I just presumed it would be occasionally being punched in the face.
Believe it or not, no. I won't miss that. I mean, listen, I think no one likes getting punched in the face, but I think that's where I've got to be careful. Like, I've been wanting to spar still and stuff like that, whereas that's one of the things about retiring. There's no denying it is a dangerous sport and like that, but you've got to know when the right time to walk away is, and I believe I'm doing that now. And some people say it's too early, but I'd rather it be too early than too late.
Absolutely, well said.
And Anthony, your beloved Manchester United home, Colchester United at home. Ollie, he nailed his flag to the mast last night, put a strong side out. He wants to win this Carabao Cup, doesn't he?
Yeah, he wants to. And we want to. Listen, we've got to be honest. I know the FA Cup's not started, but it could possibly be our strongest chance of silverware now. But I mean, there's some really good teams still in it, but hopefully we've turned that corner now. And listen, I don't want to get too excited, but the form of the last sort of 3 games, I mean, it wasn't great in Belgrade, but it was a great result, regardless, away from home. But last night was unbelievable. I was just gutted I wasn't there. I had friends, ringing me on the way home, and there's nothing I'd like more now than to be half asleep, buzzing off last night still, and what a goal from Marcus.
Yeah, that is an unbelievable free kick, isn't it?
Unbelievable. Honestly, it's I remember I was back at the hotel watching it after the public workout, and what a goal. But because they've been in great form recently, Chelsea, so for us to go there, get a result, it's brilliant. Good times. Hopefully, good times returning.
Anthony Croller speaking with Max Russian and Steve Harmison on Talk Sport this morning. Of course, don't forget that it's Tyson Fury in action in wrestling duty this evening. We'll have, I'm sure, some fallout on that on Sports Day tomorrow morning here on Talk Sport 2. Don't forget there's football coming your way this time tomorrow. It'll be the EFL Live preview show, and that will include Barnsley against Bristol City in the Sky Bet Championship to get your weekend up and running, of course. But here on TalkSport 2 next, it is TalkSport 2 Live. It is a special TalkSport 2 Live this evening. Between 6 and 7, Russell Hargreaves will bring you the day's sports news, of course. And then between 7 and 9 o'clock, it is a full preview of the final 2 games of the Rugby World Cup 2019. Of course, tomorrow morning, Wales play New Zealand in the bronze medal match. It's then England against South Africa in the final on Saturday. All of the stories, all of the analysis, reaction to the teams being picked today is coming your way here on TalkSport 2 next. Russell Hargreaves and Topsy Ojo will join him in the studio here on TalkSport 2.
Press conference Thursday on TalkSport 2.
Movember Deadline Day on Talk Sport. This Movember, whatever you grow will save a bro. Your support will change the face of men's health, raising awareness and funds to tackle prostate cancer, testicular cancer, poor mental health and suicide among men. Sign up at Movember.com and help change the face of men's health.
There's nothing like coming back to a warm home after a long day at work. Especially when you've been stuck in rush hour for what seems like an eternity. Luckily, with Hive Active Heating, rated 5-star on Trustpilot, you can turn your heating on from wherever you are. And now with our new Hive radiator valves, you can even control your heating room by room. Search Hive Heating to buy now. Hive services require broadband and Wi-Fi. Terms apply.
Looking for a tradesperson? Checker Trade's got loads you can trust.
So, these tradespeople, are they properly qualified?
Check, check, check.
Had the background checked?
Check, check, check.
And there's nothing shady in their past?
Check, 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 check. We monitor all members and contact their recent customers and check, check, check. We check every trade, check the story checks out with a bunch of background check, check, checks, accreditations, qualifications, accounts and history, all check, check, checked. So for a trade you can trust Checker Trade too. Check.
So that's...
Check, 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 Checker Trade. Checkertrade.com.
The Peugeot Professional Van range is the beating heart of businesses across the UK. Whether you're on the road with only your DAB radio for company or navigating tight spots with rear parking sensors, all Peugeot Professional Vans give your business that edge. Visit your local Peugeot dealership during our October van event from the 10th to the 31st of October and drive away with an exclusive finance offer. Master the impossible. Peugeot Motor Company PLC is acting as a credit broker, not a lender. Finance subject to status. Terms and conditions apply. Business users and over 18s only. Guarantee may be required. PSA Finance UK Limited.
Unpack every sizzling second of the latest Premier League action with Motty's Hot or Not on TalkSport with Google Nest. Listen to Hawksby and Jacobs every Monday afternoon from 1 as they're joined by the legendary John Motson with his pick of the weekend's pivotal performances. Who's on fire?
It's into the top corner!
And who's leaving the fans cold?
It's an own goal!
Motty's Hot or Not on TalkSport with Google Nest. In the trade, help your business grow this winter with Google Nest Learning Thermostat and Thermostat E. Visit g.co/nest/pro.
TalkSport 2 Sports Update with official betting partner Sky Bet, Britain's most popular online bookmaker. Making betting better. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
You're listening to TalkSport 2 Live.
Your headlines this Thursday. Jurgen Klopp hopes a solution can be found to Liverpool's upcoming fixture congestion. They've been drawn against Aston Villa in the quarter-finals, but the Reds also due to play at both the Club World Cup and the Premier League at around that exact same time. Hearts have sacked their manager Craig Levein. He leaves the Jambos second from bottom in the Scottish Premiership with just one win in 11 matches. And TalkSport have been told that Derby County have abandoned Richard Keogh when he potentially needed them the most. Keogh injured in the drink-driving car crash involving Tom Lawrence and Mason Bennett last month. that's left him out of action for about 15 months. And England head coach Eddie Jones says he's excited by the prospect of his team playing even better in Saturday's Rugby World Cup final. He's named an unchanged starting 15 from the team that beat New Zealand for the showdown with South Africa in Yokohama. And we'll bring you a full 2-hour preview show ahead of the World Cup final from 7 till 9 this evening, when we're joined by the former London Irish and England wing Topsy Ojo on DAB, the TalkSport app and via talksport.com. It's TalkSport 2 Live with me, Russell Hargreaves, and this man, Mark Webster. Hello, mate. How are you?
Good evening. Very well indeed. Very well indeed. It's I'm looking forward.
Plus leading fuel economy for £239 per month with 1434.
And only Damian Woody is on the line with yours truly. What's up, big boy? How you doing, man? Peter, the ESPN's First Take to ESPN's Get Up in the Morning. Also NFL Live. Former two-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots, former New York Jet. The one and only Damian Woody is on the line with yours truly. What's up, big boy? How you doing, man?
I'm good, my brother. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Listen, man, before I get to...
Association of Australia President Dr. John Hall hopes this will encourage people to have more frequent chats with their GPs.
It's really important that people have access to their GP, particularly if they've got chronic disease or long-term health problems.
Until I realized we're going to be taking on Stats, which is one of the, how would you put it now, unfancied teams, but very effective teams in the last few years. Yes. In urban area schoolboy football.
Moving the closed-door process into a more public format. The vote does not move to impeach the president, but defines the parameters of how the process will continue to unfold into public hearings and how...
But it is what it is. Your thoughts about what you're seeing from Baker Mayfield at this particular juncture, Damian Woody?
Well, I think it's Baker is just learning how to channel that energy, that chip on his block that he's had for going back to high school. It's really served him well up to this point. Having all the success that he had at Oklahoma and being a Heisman Trophy winner, going on to being the number one pick in the NFL draft, where there were a lot of naysayers, doubters, but the reality is this: sitting at 2-5, okay, and the question is.
Hey, Damian, I'm going to interrupt you. Let me know when your signal gets clear because we've been having some trouble with our lines. I apologize to my listeners for that as well. Make sure you let us know when you get a clear line, and we'll definitely make sure to have you back on. 888-SAY-ESPN is 888-729-3776. I'll get back to Damian Woody in just a second, but that's not the only storyline I wanted to get to. I wanted to get to Jamal Adams as well because earlier this week he called out Joe Douglas, general manager for the New York Jets, for trying to trade him. Douglas obviously denied it, said he was just listening to calls and all of this other stuff. He was not trying to move Jamal Adams at all. And I agree with him. That's his job to listen to phone calls. I mean, just because you're listening doesn't mean that you're trying to move somebody. But Jamal Adams wasn't finished with that yesterday. He clapped right back at Joe Douglas and those who would believe what Joe Douglas had to say in as it regards not wanting to move Jamal Adams. Listen to the Jets safety speak as candidly as he always does.
You know, I hold myself in a high regard. I've done everything, they've asked me to do since I've been here for the 3 years. I didn't take that lightly. I really didn't. But when I heard that I got the call, that my agent called me and he told me what was going on, it definitely hurt me. You know what I mean? I hold myself at a high level. The Rams don't take calls on Aaron Donald. The Patriots don't take calls on Tom Brady. You know what I mean? That's where I hold myself in that regard. So
here's where it gets difficult for me, ladies and gentlemen. I love me some Jamal Adams. I love the fact that that brother is in this town. He can ball. He's a rough rider. He's as real and authentic as it gets. And I have a strong level of affection as a brother for him. You can't mention yourself in the same breath as Aaron Donald and Tom Brady. You just can't do it. Not when you're playing for the New York Jets. And oh, by the way, a legitimate argument could be made. Why the hell do you want to stay with the Jets? But I'll get into all of that with my man Damian Woody, who's back on the line right now. Before I get into Jamal Adams, finish your point, Damian Woody, about Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Stephen A., like we were talking about on First Take, man, I love Baker. I love his bravado. I do. But I think you have to learn to channel that energy, because the bottom line is the Cleveland Browns are 2-5 right now. All right? And that energy that he's displaying is a detriment to the bigger picture. It's a detriment to the team. So I understand he had, him and the reporter, I think Tony Grossi from the Cleveland area, they don't necessarily get along, but he needs to understand that he's the CEO, he's a representative of the Cleveland Browns, and when you have outbursts like that, that's only going to be more fodder for everybody to talk about. So that's something he's going to have to learn, and as he continues to mature, I think he'll get better at.
How worried are you about the Cleveland Browns with him leading them?
I'm worried about the Cleveland Browns. Number one, listen, they have a rookie head coach who basically last season was a position coach. Okay, you're talking about leading a franchise that's been abominable since the inception, since they came back into the league as an expansion team. That's a big task for a guy who was a position coach. Then on top of that, you're helping guide a second-year quarterback who's very combustible. You have Odell Beckham Jr., who's very talented and combustible. Jarvis Landry. They got a bunch of young players on this football team. So I always felt like it was a mistake with the hire at the head coach, man, particularly with these young fellas that they got to groom and get ready to go.
Well, you're preaching to the choir with that. I've been lamenting the hire of Freddie Kitchens as head coach for a long time. To go from a positional coach to the offensive coordinator to the head coach inside of a year is utterly ridiculous. Really inside of 8 months, for crying out loud. But that's exactly what happened with Freddie Kitchens, which is absolutely amazing to me. We're talking to Damian Woody right here on Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Jamal Adams, I just played some sound from Jamal Adams responding and clapping back at Joe Douglas, general manager for the New York Jets, who swore he wasn't trying to trade Jamal Adams when he fielded calls from other teams about him. What did you make of that whole situation with Jamal Adams and the New York Jets?
Well, number one, I think pride is playing a big factor in all this. Jamal Adams is a prideful person. Very good player. There's no one can dispute that. Very good player. But Stephen A., here's the facts in this whole situation. Jamal Adams, as great as he is, he's a luxury for a 1-6 team right now at a position that's not necessarily a premium position when you're talking about building a team to have sustainable success. So GM Joe Douglas was literally doing his job. When teams call in a situation like the Jets who are 1-6, inquiring about a player, you have to listen. That is his job description. So I think this was a situation where, Jamal was in his feelings. Obviously, the chat about the Dallas Cowboys, and for the listeners out there, Jamal Adams is from the Dallas area. And, I think the agent played somewhat into this as well. But this is a business of football. A lot of people, they see all the play on the field and, all the amazing stuff, but they don't see the dirty, the ugly side of it. And that's a business where things like this can happen. That's something that he has to come to grips with.
It's interesting that you say that because, listen, man, I'm no fan of the New York Jets. I think that they've been an abomination over the last couple of years. I think the hiring of Adam Gase is a disaster. I don't think he deserves to be the head coach of the New York Jets. He should have never been brought in. But I still got to come to the defense of Joe Douglas from the standpoint, it is a business, and he has an obligation to listen to phone calls and to listen to what somebody has to say. I can sit up there as the GM and say, I'm not trading Jamal Adams at all. But if I am a Jets team that's en route to a 1-15 or 2-14 record, and I've been 5-11 and 4-12 over the last 2 seasons respectively. What if somebody, not to say that this would happen, just throwing out a hypothetical, what if I picked up the phone and listened and somebody says, we'll give you 2 firsts and a second for Jamal Adams? I mean, how can you not take that? So how can you not listen to the phone call? And I think that Jamal has to understand that. But my biggest thing, Damian, is this. Here's the part. This is the first time Jamal Adams has ever uttered a word out of his mouth, and I don't believe him. I want to be here. I want to stay with the New York Jets. Who the hell would want to stay with the New York Jets? But I don't believe that, Damien. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe that a Rough Rider and somebody who can ball like Jamal Adams literally wants to stay in New York City with these New York Jets. I don't believe it.
Well, listen, I've always said this, Steve. Before I came to New York, man, I always said that if you win in New York, you're a made man. There's nothing like winning in New York City. It's a tough deal with the New York Jets because they haven't been relevant or haven't been good in a long time. But when the whole thought of going back to play with the Dallas Cowboys, was like a reality, I'm sure that was very enticing. I do believe I absolutely agree with what you said. That I don't think he wants to be here, but he's going to put on a straight face and know that and face the reality of he has no choice in this matter. He has no say in this matter moving forward. So, again, Joe Douglas was doing what his due diligence, doing what he was supposed to do, was just trying to build a New York Jets football team that could be sustainable for a long time.
Damien Woody right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's go around the league and just notice what we're dealing with here. The Patriots are 8-0, but the Baltimore Ravens 5-2 atop the AFC North are getting set to go up against them. What do you anticipate in this encounter between the Patriots and Lamar Jackson and the Ravens?
Well, this is by far the Patriots' biggest test, this season. I think last week when the Patriots faced the Cleveland Browns, they were exposed somewhat by the running game, and Coach Belichick knows that. And here comes the Baltimore Ravens, leading the league in rushing by over 20 yards from the next best team. Lamar Jackson is a dynamic quarterback. Obviously, they incorporate him a lot in the running game, and that's something that's going to bear watching. I think that's going to be the key to the game. How will the Patriots contain Lamar Jackson and that rushing attack? Can they make them one-dimensional and make Lamar Jackson beat them through the air? If they do that, they got him.
Based on what you're seeing from the Oakland Raiders in the first 7 games of the season, in which they stand 3-4, what would the Raiders be if Antonio Brown was there and had stayed there?
You know what, Stephen A., that's a very good question, because I'll tell you what. The Raiders, to me, are a surprise team in the NFL right now.
I agree.
Nobody, I would say there's one person that actually, before the season, said something glowingly about the Raiders, and that was our very own Louis Riddick. But there was no one that we basically had written off the Oakland Raiders, and John Gruden is coaching his butt off. The Oakland Raiders are relevant. The Oakland Raiders are coming around. They're not there yet. Obviously, they play in the AFC West, but man, if that whole thing had worked out with Antonio Brown with the Oakland Raiders, with that offense and with Josh Jacobs in the backfield and that Raiders offensive line, boy, that Raiders offense would have been scary. I can tell you that.
I got to give John Gruden a lot of love. I really, really do. I think he's doing it. I know they're just 3-4. I think he's doing one hell of a job in Oakland this year. I really do. They're far more competitive than I thought they would be, and they deserve a lot of credit. And he got screwed over by Antonio Brown, because if you think about it right now, I believe if Antonio Brown was there, I think you're looking 5-2 with this team right now. I really do. Instead of 3-4.
I don't dispute that. I don't dispute that one bit. I think they got some work to do defensively. Need to continue to add more pieces on the defensive side of the football, but offensively, they can run the ball. They got a pretty good offensive line. Derek Carr is playing well. Tyrell Williams coming over from the Chargers is playing well. Hunter Renfrow. They got pieces, man. They got pieces on that Raiders team. They just need to keep accumulating pieces, and this Raiders comeback is going to come quicker than most people think.
Let's talk about 2 teams we would dare never say something like that about, and that's the Miami Dolphins and the Cincinnati Bengals. Who's the worst team in football?
Wow.
Take your time.
I'm going to say Cincinnati. I am. I'm going to say when I watch the Miami Dolphins, they're bad. No question about it. They are bad. but I do see them compete. They competed against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yes, they did.
They competed. They've actually, to me, have gotten better. They've gotten better with their roster being stripped down because of this whole rebuilding, tanking, or whatever you want to call it. They're actually competing. So if I had to look at the two organizations and say which one is heading in the right direction, it would be the Miami Dolphins.
Let's transition to the NFC conference. If you're the Carolina Panthers, particularly after you just got blitzed by San Francisco like 51-13, now that the honeymoon is over, per se, for Kyle Allen, do you take him out after last week's performance and bring Cam Newton back in, or do you leave him in there?
Listen, I still think that you leave Kyle Allen. He's only lost one game. And I know it was an embarrassing loss. I get it. But the 49ers are going to do that to a lot of teams. The 49ers are that good. They are legit in every facet of the game. So, yeah, that was a setback for the Carolina Panthers, but I think the Carolina Panthers are more formidable with Kyle Allen, being that he's a pocket passer, than a diminished Cam Newton as an athlete at the quarterback position.
Damian Woody right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. When you go to the 49ers and you say they're that good, obviously everybody's just thinking about their defense. Nick Bosa is a monster. He's going to be Defensive Rookie of the Year as far as I'm concerned. Some are saying he should be in the MVP conversation with 7 sacks after 7 games or so. We know their secondary can defend the pass. But what else is there about them that we're missing? Clearly, it's not just defense and the way they play defense that has, warranted all of the praise that they've received. What specifically are you seeing from the San Francisco 49ers that should alert everybody to the fact that they're legitimate title contenders?
Well, Steve, listen, everyone talks glowingly about the defense, and rightfully so, but they're one of the best rushing. They have one of the best rushing attacks in the National Football League. They're dominant in the running game, and on top of that, they got a play calling Kyle Shanahan, who, to me, is one of the best offensive minds in the National Football League. There's a lot. People just need to watch the 49ers. They do some very interesting things offensively that make you say, wow, from a design concept, that Kyle Shanahan is just he's a wizard. He really is. He's a wizard as far as designing plays. So the only component that needs to be shored up, honestly, is Jimmy Garoppolo.
You mean porn star? You mean porn star Jimmy?
Jimmy porn star just show up. Honestly, it's Jimmy Garoppolo.
You mean porn star? You mean porn star Jimmy?
Jimmy porn star Jimmy. If Jimmy can elevate his game next level, Stephen A. I don't know. I don't know about the other teams in the NFC if Jimmy G really starts coming along.
Damian Woody right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
TalkSport 2 Live.
Headlines this Thursday. Jurgen Klopp hopes a solution can be found for Liverpool's upcoming fixture congestion, drawn against Aston Villa in the quarter-finals, but the Reds also due to be playing in the Club World Cup and the Premier League at around the same time as that Carabao Cup last 8 fixture. Hearts sacking manager Craig Levein, leaving the Jambos second from bottom in the Scottish Premiership with just 1 win in 11. We'll be joined by our Scottish correspondent Stuart Weir to discuss that in about 10 minutes' time, while Tottenham have handed out indefinite bans to 48 fans who sold tickets to Red Star Belgrade supporters last week. The Serbian side banned from having their followers at the Champions League group game in North London, but a large number of the away team's fans still were able to make it in. And the England fast bowler Stuart Broad has told TalkSport he'll be working with a hero when he gets to New Zealand and works with our very own Darren Goff, a consultant in the lead-up to the Test series. On DAB, the TalkSport app and via TalkSport.com, it's TalkSport 2 Live with Russell Hargreaves and Mark Webster. And don't forget as well, we've got a full 2-hour preview show ahead of the Rugby World Cup final from 7 till 9 this evening. We'll hear from loads of the current squads and coaching staff, loads of ex-professionals of note as well. And joining Mark and I in the studio for those 2 hours, the brilliant former London Irish and England wing, Topsy Ojo as well. Mark, let's touch on some of the other major stories of the day. TalkSport told that Derby County have abandoned Richard Keogh when he potentially needed them most. Keogh, of course, injured in the drink-drive car crash that involved Tom Lawrence and Mason Bennett last month. He's going to be out of action for about 15 months. Derby announcing as a result of an internal investigation. Keogh's had his contract terminated with immediate effect for gross misconduct. A statement reading, as we've said from the outset, the club will not tolerate any of its players or staff behaving in a manner that puts themselves, their colleagues and members of the general public at risk of injury or worse. It brings the club into disrepute. Let's hear from manager Philippe Cocu, who's talked about it at today's media conference pre the weekend.
I think for everybody it's a difficult and hard situation, of course. And for the moment I just cannot go into the matter. Still ongoing, still in process, and it's been a club decision. It's very complicated, but we have to make sure we try to focus on our game on Saturday, and we cannot go by that easily, because Richard, of course, has been here for a long time, but like I said, because it's a club matter, I cannot give any comment on it at the moment.
So still not officially commenting, but they are just starting to give a bit more away about the mood within the camp and the decision they had to make, I guess, Mark.
It's extraordinarily complicated in the sense where we saw Lawrence and Bennett, 25, 23, two young men at the start of their careers and extraordinary big assets for Derby. Before anything had been resolved, but what we knew, everything knew what would happen, and you couldn't pretend otherwise. There are certain elements of this which, has just been pointed out by Philip Cocu, you cannot be discussed. There's parts that you could speculate at, but you might be wrong. But what we do know is that Lawrence and Bennett were welcomed back into the Derby squad while there were still decisions being pending about what their fate would be as a result of their decisions to drive their cars. They subsequently went into the Welsh squad as well, and Ryan Giggs pointed out at the time that he wasn't even totally sure that he was right to do that. I paraphrased somewhat there. Then the punishment is meted out. They carry on, of course, now, and so they're, they've received their punishment from the courts. They will serve that, and they'll carry on as Derby players. Meanwhile, Richie Keogh, passenger in the car, is then, as far as we know, and I guess this is the point here, is now, I think what Philip Cocu's pointing out there is that there's so much between the lines here.
There's clearly actions that have gone on, broadly, and including him.
Yes. A reduced contract was suggested and offered, apparently declined, and then he was sacked. Now, I guess can we conclude from that he isn't totally an innocent party in this situation? Now, I'm not saying I am concluding that. I'm saying that if we take the information given to us, that the fact, and here's the fact, here's the rub of this, Russ, isn't it? He is 33, 34 years old.
And then he's out for 15 months.
Would he even come back as a player? So all of that is to be taken into account. Would a man that Derby... A man that is their captain, has led them under various different managers, has almost been a kind of a catalyst figure, sort of one of the sort of like a mainstay during many changes at Derby, which have happened over the years. And you can remember, if you go back to Frank Lampard, the start of Frank Lampard's tenure there, I don't think he was particularly fancied, Richard Keogh. And because of the nature of the way that Frank Lampard wanted to play, I think he was dropped occasionally. But then became clearly one of those players that Lampard's going, well, I need this man here. Yeah. OK, so fine.
I need his fight, his tenacity, his experience, all of those attributes.
Qualities.
Yeah.
So then you take into account the fact that if he has been wronged, if he's the unlucky victim in this circumstance...
Why did you terminate his contract?
Why would Derby turn on their team captain?
OK, well, with that in mind, let's hear from former Premier League midfielder Jamie O'Hara, who would agree with your feeling that Keogh's been hard done to.
It's definitely a tough one. I mean, look, I said it earlier, Jim. I just think the biggest problem with this situation is the other two lads are there. They're young boys. They're assets for the football club, and they've just gone back to playing. Richard Keogh's just kind of, for me, been dumped to the wayside a bit. And as I said, you're an asset until you're not an asset. And they've just kind of they've used Keogh, he's been great for them, and then all of a sudden when he needs you the most, potentially, where his career's, at the end, might need some help, I feel like they've just threw him to the wolves.
OK, so that's Jamie O'Hara. The other point here is beyond Keogh. It's what impact will this now have on the dressing room at Derby? Let's get the take on that of the former Millwall manager, Neil Harris.
I can only imagine with Richard is that he's disappointed because he's club captain, setting the example. I said I really don't want to be too controversial and comment at the moment because you don't know what's going on. But I think there's certainly 3 players there that all need support at the moment and continue to need to support, and obviously 3 with different instances, whether they're back fit, not fit, playing, not playing, or Rich obviously coming back with long-term injury and sort of, as you said, fighting for his future at Derby County. But they will need support of some aspects, and that's certainly where the PFA have got to be involved as well to find that support.
So that is the manager of Millwall from recent times, Neil Harris. Mark, Derby 16th in the table, a fairly uninspiring -4 goal difference, 18 points from 14 games, playing a Middlesbrough team under Jonathan Woodgate, who are in the relegation zone this weekend at Pride Park. Big game to have this big backdrop.
Yes, well, it is. I mean, do you know what? If you're being mercenary, Lawrence and Bennett are available. I guess this is, so there's perhaps if you're going for that horrible, cold-blooded view of this, perhaps the 2 out of the 3 men that you will want available are. The subtext of this, and in Philip Cocu saying it's something we can't talk about because there's stuff happening, obviously does not help clear that muddies the waters even further.
Whether that is contractual purely or whether, as you say, it's partly disciplinary, we don't know.
And equally, in these situations, if a footballer gets hurt, footballers are insured, aren't they? Wouldn't his contract be covered by an insurance? I don't know. I'm speculating, but the reason I'm speculating,
nullified by the fact there was.
The reason I'm exactly right. The reason we're asking questions because no one's providing the answers.
Okay. Well.
All we do know is what apparently has happened, an apparently extraordinarily mercenary act on the part of the club has happened. But that is me saying that with no information really available.
You're listening to TalkSport 2 Live. In a couple of moments, we're joined by Stuart Weir, our brilliant Scottish correspondent, to discuss a very trying day up at Tynecastle for Hearts fans. And then between now and 7 o'clock, plenty more from some of today's main managerial media conferences. We'll talk a bit of rugby, a bit of cricket as well. And then from 7, that full 2-hour build-up to the Rugby World Cup final this coming Saturday morning.
You're listening to TalkSport 2 Live.
Movember Deadline Day on TalkSport. This Movember, whatever you grow will save a grow. Your support will change the face of men's health, raising awareness and funds to tackle prostate cancer, testicular cancer, poor mental health and suicide among men. Sign up at Movember.com and help change the face of men's health.
On a child's bedroom window, a little wall crawler spots a skyscraper on the far side of town. Determined to reach it, the little wall crawler slowly and surely begins to climb down. Out of the window, along rooftops and branches, the wall crawler hurries, sure-footed and swift, till finally reaching the distant skyscraper. In one single bound, it jumps into the lift. It rides to the rooftop and stares. Sunshine, the whole city gleams. Then over the edge goes the little wall crawler, to crawl down the wall of the wall crawler's dreams. Determination can get you where you want to be. At Royal London, we're customer owned, so our only focus is getting you there. Pensions, investments, life insurance. Royal London, determination since 1861. Royal London.
Picture a boy. He's in his teens. In a classroom. Distracted. What do you see? A lack of concentration. Or do you see what we see? A young man wondering how he can change the world. There are troops on peacekeeping missions that need that right now. Your army needs you. Find where you belong. Sedge Army Jobs.
I'm Andy McNabb, and my new thriller, Whatever It Takes, is out now. When one man's family is destroyed by the world's wealthiest elite, he will stop at nothing to right the wrongs they have suffered. Whatever It Takes is the story of an everyday hero and his extraordinary pursuit of justice. They say before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves. Whatever It Takes, the adrenaline-pumping new thriller by me, Andy McNabb, is out now. Whatever It Takes. It's not theft, it's payback.
TalkSport 2 Live.
Your headlines this Thursday. Jurgen Klopp hopes a solution can be found for Liverpool's upcoming fixture congestion. Drawn in the Carabao Cup against Aston Villa in the quarter-finals, but the Reds also due to play at the Club World Cup and in the Premier League at pretty much exactly the same time. Elsewhere, Hearts have sacked their boss Craig Levein, leaving the Jambos second from bottom in the Scottish Premiership with just 1 win in 11 matches. More on this in just a second. TalkSport, meanwhile, told that Derby County have abandoned Richard Keogh when he potentially needed them the most. Keogh injured in a drink-drive car crash involving Tom Lawrence and Mason Bennett last month. He's going to be out of action for about 15 months. And the England head coach Eddie Jones says he's excited by the prospect of his team playing even better in the Rugby World Cup final, naming unchanged starting 15 from the side that beat New Zealand when they face South Africa in Yokohama this coming Saturday morning. Don't forget as well a full 2-hour preview show ahead of the Rugby World Cup final from 7 till 9 this evening with the former London Irish and England wing Topsy Ojo on DAB, the TalkSport app and via talksport.com. It's TalkSport 2 Live with Mark Webster and me, Russell Hargreaves. So Hearts parting company with Craig Levein, given his marching orders at Tynecastle. Second bottom, 1 win in 11. Levein also won't be returning to his previous role as Director of Football, but does stay with Hearts until the end of the season to work on their backroom and youth structure. Austin McPhee has been put in temporary charge of the club. Pleased to say Stuart Weir now joins us. Stuart, always a pleasure. How are you, sir?
Evening, Stu.
Evening, guys. Doing well, yes. All good, all good.
Better than Craig Levein?
Well, yes, you could say that. I think there is little surprise in the capital, especially amongst Hearts fans, that Craig Levein has parted company with the club. If you can look back a couple of months back, Anne Budge, the Hearts owner, said that no one was bomb-proof at Tynecastle, at which point I think Craig Levein should have pulled on the helmet and dived into the nearest air raid shelter, because I think he knew what was coming. The thing is with this, the fact of the matter is that since he took over as manager when Ian Cathro, that great experiment that failed in terms of a new youthful coach, and Levein took over, he's only earned more points than one club in the top flight, and that's Hamilton Accies. And I think that says it all. And he's had a year to improve that. I mean, this is part of a, if you like, a crisis, an ongoing crisis, not just at Tynecastle, but actually in Edinburgh itself. Because if you look at Hibs are not exactly performing that well either. And I know both Hibs and Hearts have got semi-finals this weekend. Hibs play Celtic on Saturday in the League Cup semi-final. Rangers will play Hearts now on Sunday. But over the past 7 months, Hearts and Hibs between them have only won 3 league games. That's quite astounding. Hibs have won 2. Hearts have won only a single match. Two of those wins, or those 3 wins, came against each other.
I'll tell you what, in terms of low ebb bragging rights, this is about we scrape with a barrel with this one, aren't we? Good Lord, this is a
limbo dancing competition. The bar is not set very high.
Lying on the floor. Stuart, what? It's I kind of feel it's a shame because I just can remember Craig, and I often think, or perhaps it was the glasses. It was just this idea that Levein was kind of this new face,
quite cerebral,
exactly. An intellectual take on football management and looking after Scottish football, and he felt like a great custodian, and that you kind of hope that he was perhaps the way forward, and that perhaps other managers and sporting directors and blah 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 would come in his wake. And it's just not kind of happened for him, has it?
No, it hasn't, because to be honest, there are certain elements in terms of Craig Levein that he almost believed his own hype. He was the Scotland manager, and once famously against Slovakia, famously played a 4-6-0 formation.
I remember that very well.
Remember, yeah, and so does every Scotland fan. And then when Spain did it with the withdrawn centre forward, much the same formation, he then took credit for Spain copying him. Now, Spain had slightly better players than Scotland did to work that system, but Craig Levein still took credit for it, and he took credit for bringing Ian Cathro in as, a coach and somebody who, if you like, was what was described as a laptop manager, because everything he did was in PowerPoint presentations and the likes, and that didn't work out. Levein took over a year ago, and subsequently it hasn't really worked out. I was at Tynecastle a few times before the end of last season when they had actually qualified for the Scottish Cup final, and the number of Hearts fans that were saying you would give it until the end of the season, see what happened in the Cup final, as to not only were they going to renew season tickets, but also were they going to renew their hospitality packages. And we're talking about guys here who are spending thousands of pounds a year to watch Hearts. If those guys are beginning to, become disillusioned, that's not a good sign business-wise for Hearts, let alone what they're doing as a football club.
So, Stewie, where do they go from here? Austin McPhee in temporary charge. What do you think is the best route? Is it to appoint internally, or is it to go out there and get someone that can kind of get a bit of a grip on this situation, if that's possible?
Well, I think this is a real decision, time for decision and time for some straight talking, a bit of honesty, and also a bit of backbone. I do wonder if they go for the current setup, whether that's just because it's not going to cost them very much money, because you've already got a ready-made replacement. But there are other managers and coaches out there who are doing particularly well and would fit Hearts or the Hearts job. If you look at John Robertson, would probably go back to Tynecastle over broken glass, and I think many fans would actually save him the trouble of walking on that glass by walking on it themselves and carrying him back to Tynecastle. I'll give you a name just now who almost immediately will be installed as favourite, and that's Jack Ross.
Jack Ross, yeah, of course.
Jack Ross did well.
I thought he did really well at Sunderland as well.
Yeah, in difficult circumstances.
Yeah. When he was sat with a very heavy heart, wasn't it? That was the first thing they said, was we actually don't really want to do this.
No, you're absolutely right, Russell. I think it was, if you look at where Sunderland were, it wasn't as if they were suddenly a point off the relegation area or in the bottom three. They were actually doing okay. They'd reached, they'd been to Wembley, and I think that Sunderland fans are extremely difficult to please. But I think ultimately, it was one of these ones where I think the board actually has decided, listen, we need to make a change here to keep the fans on side, because they're jumping up and down. I think Jack Ross would be a good fit. He did well at St Mirren as well. He knows Scottish football, and again, he is still of the if you like, the generation where Hearts are employing a young manager and a forward-thinking manager.
And one who's hopefully learnt as well, Stewie, from that experience too. Sometimes when you go through a tough one, it can actually make you stronger and better the next time too.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Russell. And I think because of that experience, the experience he had at St Mirren that earned him the job at Sunderland, and what he's come through at Sunderland will make him a better coach and manager, but also probably a better man manager. And I have to say, one of the key elements in all of this is the recruitment that Hearts have been doing over the last couple of seasons. It has been absolutely abysmal. They have guys in there who are on big money contracts in terms of Scottish football who have done absolutely nothing, and they've brought guys in who I have to say, they must know somebody who's an award-winning, BAFTA-earning DVD editor, because you would never have bought them in a month of Sundays had you seen them live. They must have the DVDs, to die for.
All right, this is the same person who worked on that Robert Duvall film when he was when he was the manager. Yeah, very believable. Yeah.
A Shot at Glory.
Is that what it was called? Yeah.
Yeah, A Shot at Glory.
Tragically, I forgot. Sorry about that.
One of these days, I'll give you a long version of the famous football writers' dinner from that year, which was something to behold when you had the area assistant manager John McVeigh walking around the tables introducing everyone to his new pal Bob, who happened to be Robert Duval.
Wow. Yeah, that's the thing. That will be a sight to see. And
but you were in your element that night.
Oh, wow, that's the way to do it. I must say, the one, is it strange, or is it just go to show that the relationship is strong, that Levine is still within the club, albeit in obviously a diminished capacity?
Yeah, that's got to be hard, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has. And again, how can I put this? You knew when he took over the manager's job that if he was successful, great. If he wasn't successful, he really didn't have anywhere to go in terms of the director of football. How could the director take on a role of director of football again and then tell another manager what he needed from him if you'd been a failure yourself?
Yes.
So he had nowhere to go. I honestly think all this is just now is a bit of window dressing and actually getting something out of Levine. He started a project in terms of redeveloping the youth system and working behind the scenes. I think what they're doing is giving him time to get it finished. And Budge just does like Craig Levine, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's lasted this long. I think she can see what he's trying to do with the club going forward. It just hasn't worked out in the pitch.
But so, in a weird way, this might end up working to the best of the club, which is strange and a sort of long-winded way to get there, but perhaps. As
my old granny used to say, it's a long roundabout way for a shortcut. You know what I mean? It could well, Mark. It could well work out for them. It could well be that because of the building blocks that actually Levine puts in place. And I have to say, Hearts have got some absolutely wonderful youngsters at the club. You know, there's one or two of them, and we're not talking about just like the likes of Rangers looking at them. We are talking about some big hitters in the top 6 and 8 in England, and one or two clubs in the continent that are looking at some of the young Hearts players. The biggest problem is, especially amongst Hearts fans, is that Craig Levine just wasn't giving them a chance. So you could end up with boys being disillusioned and walking out the club at the end of their contracts and going somewhere bigger, and Hearts getting virtually nothing for them.
I've got to say,
because they never get a chance.
At this point, why Young Hearts Run Free isn't playing under this conversation as we're having it? I mean, that's what Candy Staton sung that song in the first place.
Yeah,
could I be
absolutely
wrong?
No, I mean, a bit like Elvis down the chip shop. I think she was once in Gorgie Road having a white pudding supper.
She said these kids they've got at Tynecastle, I'll tell you what, one day they're going to come through.
Yeah, listen, the other, I mean, and just to conclude, I think so much of what's going on at Hearts is the fact that Anne Budge has, and the fans saved them a couple of years back. They're in a pretty good position financially, but they've built a big new stand. They have financial commitments off the pitch, and it's cost them a fortune on the pitch without any success. I mean, going into Sunday's match, I mean, a great many Rangers fans are not thanking Anne Budge for this because they think that Hearts will suddenly come out, inspired in the Cup semi-final, and they might be right. But the fact of the matter is that Hearts have never reached a level of serious competition or serious quality over the last couple of years where you could almost say, yeah, they might get to semi-finals or they might get to finals or they might win one of the trophies. They have been nowhere near that, and I think that, again, you need to be putting bums in seats to earn real money, and that's just not happening at Tynecastle.
Stuart, just as we let you go, we also know what a big rugby fan you are, just like my good self from 7 till 9, as we're saying. We've got a big World Cup preview with Topsy Ojo ahead of the final. What's your gut reaction as to how Saturday will go and why between England and South Africa?
What do I know? I was predicting New Zealand, South Africa all the way. Yes, Russell, yes. Listen, I honestly think, and I have to agree with Warren Gatland. England last Saturday did a real number on the All Blacks. It's as good a performance as you will have seen, in the last decade from England, and as good a performance as anybody's put up probably in that same period. I think back to the Lions a couple of years back and how they performed against the All Blacks, and that England performance was akin to anything that the Lions did out in New Zealand. It was measured, it was controlled. When they got ahead, they stayed there. What I would say against South Africa is you know what's coming, and even though you can guard against it and defend against it, you know that they are going to come at you like a supercharged juggernaut. It's going to be such a battle up front, and if England can contain South Africa there, they've won the game, because they've got so much more scoring ability behind the scrum.
And keep the breakdown quick as well, Stuart. Keep that breakdown fast-paced, because that's what Wales couldn't do.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. You have got to keep going on the front foot. Even in defence, Russell, you have to approach it that you're on the front foot. So it's not committing 2 and 3 and 4 bodies to rucks. It's about getting in there, stopping the movement, and then we've got a chance of winning the ball, winning it back, and then going forward with it. England were perfect last Saturday. 2 performances like that in a row is always difficult in sport, but I think that's what it's going to take again for England to win this one. And if they do, I honestly can see them winning it by about 15 points.
Loving your work, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.
Very much indeed.
Very kind.
Yeah, we'll see how it all pans out.
He does have a very impressively full fridge for these tournaments as well. We spoke to him last week on Weekend Sports Day. He sent us a photo. He sent us the before photograph, obviously.
The after.
We never saw the after.
We dread to think. The mind boggles, but he's a brilliant man. We love Stuart. We really do. It's Talk Sport 2 Live. In a couple of moments, we'll round up one or two of the other sporting stories today. We'll touch on one or two other football stories. We'll touch on the cricket as well. And don't forget, from 7, Topsy Ojo joins Mark and I for our 2-hour Rugby World Cup final preview special.
You're listening to Talk Sport 2 Live.
Movember Deadline Day on Talk Sport. This Movember, whatever you grow will save a bro. Every moustache will raise awareness, raise funds, start conversations and save lives. Sign up at Movember.com and help change the face of men's health.
We've been together 3 years. We both love travel, and luckily we've got the same taste in music. Next year, we're planning a big road trip, and my wife's coming too. It'll be nice. The 3 of us don't do enough together. We know how much your Mini means to you. That's why Mini Service offers an array of convenient options and allows you to book online anytime at mini.co.uk. Because we love your Mini almost as much as you do. Search Mini Service. Who's in? T's and C's apply, subject to availability, participating retailers only.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like sponsored jobs, which increase the visibility of your post in search results to make sure the right candidates find you faster. And we give you free clones of your best employees. What's that? Oh, no cloning. But there are sponsored jobs.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/redeem today and get a free sponsored job upgrade on your first posting. Terms and conditions apply.
So, I want to be on Checkatrade. What do I need to do? Well, would you pass an ID check? Check, check, check. Are you fully insured? Check, check, check. Nothing dodgy in your past? Check, check. Yeah. At Checkatrade, every tradesperson has to pass at least 12 checks. We check they are who they say they are, what other customers think, and we check if they've been removed from our site before. So you know you'll be able to trust them. Just visit
Checkatrade.com. We are delighted to announce the Duchess of Cambridge's fabulous magazine special. We'll be revealing her style and beauty secrets, plus pictures galore in the glossy 52-page magazine. We can officially confirm that it is an absolute belter. Pick up the Sun on Sunday this weekend.
TalkSport 2, traffic and travel with Checkatrade.com.
If you're looking for a tradesperson, we've got loads you can trust. Visit Checkatrade.com today.
Checkatrade.com.
In Merseyside, the M57 has been closed off in both directions since this morning between junctures 4 and 6 for ongoing investigation work. Repairs are also underway to the M11 in Essex, so the Southlands carriageway has 8 miles worth of queues between Saffron Walden and Bishop Stortford. Onto the M25, there's long delays clockwise between junction 21A and 26 at Waltham Abbey. That's not being helped by an accident near to Potter's Bar. And in Hampshire, through the roadworks on the M27, eastbound is queuing from junction 5 to 7 after a breakdown. I'm Hannah Trinder.
Fall in love with the brand new iPhone 11 at Tesco Mobile. Take amazing photos with Apple's best ever ultra-wide lens camera. You can get the iPhone 11 for just $37.75 a month with no additional upfront costs. What's not to love? Search Tesco Mobile or visit us in store. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
36-month credit agreement, rolling monthly usage contract. Subject to status, phase policy applies. See tescomobile.com/terms.
NFL Live this Sunday from 1400 GMT on TalkSport 2 with TuneIn. Touchdown! Oh, my goodness! Don't turn over your radio wide receiver as TalkSport 2 brings you gridiron grinding, touchdown tackling, full live commentary of the Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Live from Wembley Stadium, London, England.
Wide right. No good. Texans win it. Houston prevails.
NFL Live this Sunday from 1400 GMT on TalkSport 2 with TuneIn.
TalkSport 2 Live.
The headlines this Thursday. Jurgen Klopp hopes a solution can be found for Liverpool's upcoming fixture congestion, drawn against Aston Villa in the Carabao Cup quarter-finals, but the Reds also due to be playing in the Club World Cup and in the Premier League at pretty much bang on the same time. Hearts sacking their boss Craig Levein, leaving the Jambos second from bottom of the Scottish Premiership with just one win in 11 matches. And Tottenham handing out indefinite bans to 48 fans who sold tickets to Red Star Belgrade supporters last week. The Serbian side banned from having their fans at the Champions League group game in North London. A large number of the away team supporters were still able to make it in. And we have a result in the WWE Crown Jewel match between Braun Strowman and a certain Tyson Fury. TalkSport 2's John Jackson joins us in the studios with the details. John, what's happened?
Well, I've just been watching this. Good evening, guys. Tyson Fury, on his debut, has won the match by a count-outs.
What does that mean?
Well, basically, I mean, let's go back to the beginning. He came out. He was wearing traditional Arabic dress. I don't know what. I mean, there's a name for it, and that obviously got a huge pop with the crowd in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. And he was very much the favourite in this. What with him being such a massive name. To be fair to him, he could have turned up and taken the money, but actually he's put in a lot of training, and we've seen some videos of this from behind the scenes, and he's actually learnt a bit of wrestling, and he showed some signs of being able to wrestle. There was a lot of punches thrown, and basically the way it went with him and Braun Strowman is that Braun Strowman threw him around a bit, and then Tyson Fury had that one knockout punch which knocked Braun Strowman out of the ring, and then
out of the ring,
yeah.
Wow.
That's how strong he is, and
that's exactly what that was.
It led to a count out. But the thing is that obviously he's used to hitting people for real, so I'm actually quite impressed that he's done like a sort of fake wrestling punch.
Yes,
but actually he's mastered masking it not being real and making it look real.
That's terrific. Is this tying in with the fact that he's talked about the fact that he thinks boxing's... He's given himself a year, hasn't he? I think, really, in boxing.
He's a businessman.
Sure.
Yeah, we were at the NFL on Sunday, and he mentioned he'd been training with the Los Angeles Rams before. He's done a little bit of everything. He's got his fingers in lots of different pies. And if his boxing career is, does have a shelf life, which I guess it does, the way this match is finished has very much left it on a cliffhanger where if they want to get him back in a year's time and pay him another reported $15 million to appear in Saudi Arabia.
So what, might he have retired even from boxing again by then, or is it a case of he might flip-flop a little bit? Yeah.
Well, I imagine if you've got that nice little payment coming, you can fit things around it.
He's got the showbiz. Yeah. He's got all the showbiz that WWE requires, isn't he?
Before he came out, there was a minute-long firework display. You see like the Olympics and all that, and you've got the fireworks going up from around the actual stadium. That all happened for a good minute. Then there was fire, there was glitter cannon, like everything. And then he came out in this sort of local dress, and everyone was loving it. And he certainly knows what to do. You see when he's been boxing and he comes out wearing like a suit of the Stars and Stripes. He knows what he's doing. He's a very, very smart businessman.
Definitely.
Brilliant. John, thank you very much
indeed.
Well done to Tyson Fury, boxing world champion, of course, and hopes to be so again, and now winner of the WWE Crown Jewel match in Riyadh against Braun Strowman. Let's round up one or two of the other major stories of the day. The England manager Gareth Southgate says his squad need to be united as they get ready to take on Montenegro in their Euro 2020 qualifier next month. Southgate speaking at an FA event to mark the men's 1000th international on Thursday the 14th of November, saying in the wake of recent racist abuse in Bulgaria, his squad have to be united and strong.
We've got to get the balance right for the team of enjoying this occasion and the build-up to a special game. But equally, our job on the night is to qualify for a European Championship, and that can lead to some more brilliant nights like we had the chance to walk around and remind ourselves of today. So, to make Wembley over the next 12 months a place that is totally united, team and fans, is going to be such a asset for us moving forward.
Gareth Southgate there speaking at that FA event for the 1000th Men's International. Now, the England fast bowler Stuart Broad has told TalkSport he'll be working with a hero when he gets to New Zealand and works with our very own Darren Gough. Gough, your consultant in the lead up to the Test matches. Broad telling us even at his age, he can't wait to learn off the maestro.
With cricketers of that experience, actually, the amount, even if they're not playing in every single Test match, the amount that they can offer to the group and the players around, the young bowlers coming in, it's invaluable. And having Goughy come in is so exciting, even for someone at my age, because you can learn from people that have played so much cricket. So I think that's what this England team do so well, is very open to learn from past players, from players that have been around, and pick up different ideas.
Now, England get their T20 series in New Zealand underway overnight from 1 a.m. UK time. All under Sam Curran. Seamer Pat Brown will make their debuts in the format in the opener in Christchurch. Ben Stokes, Jofra Archer, Joss Butler among those who've been rested. Captain Owen Morgan says it is a fantastic opportunity for the young players to impress ahead of next year's World Cup.
It doesn't come around that often when we rest 6 or 7 players, because when they come back, I think it's very difficult to stake a claim to get into a squad or a final 11, because it's been so strong for some time. So it's quite a big tour in that regard.
And Scotland's cricketers celebrating gaining a place at next year's World T20 with another win after they sealed their qualification against the UAE. They've now beaten Oman by 5 wickets, so well done to them. Don't forget, after England are done in New Zealand, the tour to South Africa across all 3 formats live exclusively right here on TalkSport 2 from Boxing Day. Carl Edmund hasn't managed to pull off that upset against world number 1 Novak Djokovic at the Paris Masters Tennis. The former British number 1 beaten in straight sets in their last 16 encounters, 7-6 in the first, but 6-1 to the Serb in the second. Edmund had been on an 8-match losing streak prior to finding at least a bit of form in France this week. The Northern Ireland's Rory McIlroy with a strong start at the final golf championship event of the season, the world number 2. 3 shots off the lead at the WGC event in Shanghai after a 67. Hao Tong Lee out front by a single stroke, the young Chinese, 8 under after a 64. England's Matthew Fitzpatrick well placed on 6 under, 2 off the lead. TalkSport 2 live in a moment, our Rugby World Cup preview special. We're joined for the next 2 hours, Mark and I, by Topsy Ojo.
You're listening to TalkSport 2 Live.
Movember Deadline Day on TalkSport. This Movember, you don't have to grow to save a bro. You can also move and commit to walking or running 60 kilometres. Sign up at Movember.com and help change the face of men's health.
For the recyclers, we salute you. For the volunteers, hats off. For the stand up for what you believers, we know it's hard to be good. Which is why at the Cooperative Bank, we try to make doing the right thing as easy as possible. Search Cooperative Bank current accounts and see why you should choose the UK's most trusted mainstream bank. The Cooperative Bank, for people with purpose. Join us. Voted most trusted mainstream bank at the MoneyWise Customer Service Awards 2019.
Isn't it funny how you're noticing them more and more? Parked at the school gates, waiting at a red light, or charging on the side of a street. The electric car. With over 4,000 new drivers on the road each month and over 40 models available, the electric car is now the car. Search Go Ultra Low to find out more.
This Movember, here's to the straggly moustaches, the lopsided ones, the itchy, ratty, ferrety ones, the hey, I look good with this ones, the absolutely filthy ones, the ones, the black, blonde, red and grey ones, the ones grown by Dad, the ones grown for Dad. All moustaches raise awareness, raise funds, start conversations and save lives. Because whatever you grow will save a bro. Sign up now at Movember.com.
The all-new Vauxhall Vivaro comes with class-leading fuel economy for £239 per month with 1434 initial rental. All-new Vauxhall Vivaro carries British business. Business users only. Initial rental of 1434 plus 35 months at 239. Contract hire on new Vivaro Dynamic 2700 L1 H1 1.5 turbo diesel 100 PS 6,000 miles per year. Subject to status. T's and C's 18 plus. Price excludes 20% VAT. You will not own the van. Vauxhall Finance PLC. Trading as free to move lease. Search new Vivaro offer.
TalkSport 2 Sports Update with official betting partner Sky Bet, Britain's most popular online bookmaker. Making betting better. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Good evening and a very warm welcome to the Rugby World Cup final preview show here on TalkSport 2. I'm Russell Hargreaves alongside Mark Webster and the former London Irish and England wing Topsy Ojo. Over the next 2 hours we'll get struck right into that showdown between England and South Africa on Saturday morning in Yokohama, as both proud nations prepare to do battle for the right to lift the William Webb Ellis Trophy. On DAB, the TalkSport app and via TalkSport.com. It's TalkSport 2 Live, and this, our Rugby World Cup final preview special ahead of the 2019 showpiece, right here on TalkSport 2. Topsy Ojo, how you doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you, very good.
Evening, Topsy.
Evening, how are we doing?
Good.
Good, and getting our game faces on already ahead of Saturday morning.
Right.
I think you don't want to peak too soon, though, do you, as a fan or a player?
No, that's right. There is plenty of time for all of that kind of stuff. And as Russ and I were discussing only an hour ago, only the 2,000 pubs in London. That's the only intel I've got back. I'm going to imagine it's thousands more everywhere else.
Extrapolating up the nation.
It's being embraced, isn't it, this?
Yeah, you have to. You've got to get behind it. I mean, England in a World Cup final is... it doesn't happen very often.
Yes.
It doesn't happen very often. So we saw it with the cricket in the summer. We'll see it Saturday with the rugby.
Yeah, could we win two, as England, different World Cups in two different sports in the space of a few weeks? It'd be incredible.
I mean, you boys have got a lot longer than I have, but I'm going to about say, not in our lifetime again.
Topsy, what have you made of... We'll go with England's team, first of all, because that's the big news of today. They are unchanged in terms of the starting 15. As you know, one change on the bench at scrum half. Willie Hines out, Ben Spencer in. But Eddie Jones could have gone elsewhere, couldn't he?
Yeah, he could have. Again, this whole debate about Ford, is he in, is he out? Does Slade come back in, and are they thinking about negating South Africa's physical presence? But I guess it's one of those, given how well the semi-final went, to change the team again for the final. I mean, we've been second-guessing Eddie since the break of time, so I think we have to trust his selection. I'm very happy with it because I think the combination worked so well that you would think tactically between Ford, between Farrell and between Youngs as well, they can move South Africa anywhere they want them.
Would the converse of that be that South Africa weren't ever really going to change much? Ergo, he would have known, really, in practical terms, what team he would like to have put out?
Yeah, I would say so, and I think, you saw he was in the stands watching that semi-final. Yeah. I think South Africa, for the last couple of games, that have set their stall out and said, this is our biggest strength, we are bigger, we are stronger, and we are coming for the front door. So it's, do you pick a selection to go head-to-head with that, or do you pick something that's tactically different? And I think that's what they've gone with.
Because Eddie Jones in the quarter-final against Australia, knowing though it wouldn't have a huge amount of the ball at times, he needed to be defensively strong but incisive as well. He went with a certain route, didn't he? Flicked it back for the semi-final against New Zealand. There could have been the argument from exactly what you said of trying to counter South Africa by going back to Farrell at 10, maybe.
Yeah, I think so, but again, this is the final now, and you want to go out and win it, and if you want to go out and win it, you want to do it your way, your style. So obviously you prepare for the opposition, but it's about how do you want to play the game and what style of rugby do you think is going to win it, and it's with Ford at 10 and Farrell at 12.
I suppose the point, which I guess, aficionados of the game will understand it much more, the complexity of it more, but of course, I think if you're outside looking in, I don't think we appreciate quite how much the bench, the nature of the bench and reserves and substitutions matters in rugby, because it's so much more tactical than that man's not in form. It's game plan, isn't it, as a thought process?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you've seen this switch in recent times to not calling them substitutes now.
No, I was struggling for the correct word there, yes.
Game changers, according to Harlequins.
It started with game changers, and now it's finishers.
I don't like that. Yeah. I don't like game changers. Finishers is good.
A lot of teams have gone finishers.
Yeah,
so
baseball. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, no, I'll go with that.
So it plays into this new Eddie narrative now of everybody's got a role. You're not dropped, you're rotated. So if your role is to come on at 50 minutes and finish the game, that is almost as important as starting. 100%. You can't tell me any player that is happy to be coming off the bench.
Don't want to be a game changer? How could you not want to be a game changer? You probably get a lovely medal for that.
So you're a tiny bit from Eddie Jones. We'll talk about Eddie in detail later in the show. But he says that he wants a team that can play without fear come Saturday morning.
So we've got one more opportunity to play well. So we want to play with no fear on Saturday. Just get out there and play the game. We know South Africa aren't going to give us the game. They're going to come hard. We've got to meet their physicality. we're looking forward to that, and then being able to impose our game on them.
Topsy, I was saying to Stuart Weir when he joined us earlier on in the last hour of the show that England need to be very quick at the breakdown, very clinical, very precise, and get quick ball there, because that's one thing Wales couldn't do, and they got slowed down, didn't they? And it's very hard to inject the pace you then need to beat that physical game. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a huge battle in the breakdown, and again, looking back at last weekend, the key to England's victory was that speed of ball. Their breakdown was lightning quick. Curry, Underhill and Billy Vunipola were in there, but this is going to be their biggest test. You know, you've got a huge monster back row in that South African trio, Vermeulen, Du Toit and Khaleesi. They're going to be preying on the breakdown, and again, talk about how South Africa are approaching this. Their goal, their ambition will be to stop England playing quickly. They've got 6 forwards loaded on the bench, so there's going to be no let-up for the 80 minutes. They've got another set of back rows, Francois Lowe waiting, Mostert waiting in the wings, all designed with intent to slow England's ball down and stop them playing. Well, seeing as he's a big fan of these finishes and game changers, Mark, let's go there for a second. England's one change is Ben Spencer on the bench, Willie Hines out, and Spencer has been at home looking after his kids, basically, hasn't he? He's been saying, got the call, he's flown out to literally be on the bench, and I'm sure probably will come on for a few minutes of a World Cup final. Cool. The starting 9, Ben Young, says that Ben has seamlessly transitioned into the group.
He knows the group really well. He's got experience, so we'll keep him up to speed very, very quickly. And he's keen to rip in straight away, so that's everything you want.
Great story, that Topsy, isn't it? I mean, it's not so great for Willie Hines, but it's really good for Ben.
Why is that, fellas? Is it because of his skill set? I mean, does injury come into play here? Because it seems a rather dramatic parachuting in of a player.
Well, he only went with 2 9s in his squad. This is the issue. Most would take 3 to a World Cup, but in his 31, Eddie Jones has taken 2.
Yeah, there was a question mark over. He pretty much took an extra back 3 player as opposed to an extra scrum half, and it's lasted up until now. And Willie Hines wasn't actually on for that long on Saturday. He pulls up injured, and that's that. You have to fly Ben Spencer in halfway around the world.
What about? I guess he's got his fitness, he's got his club fitness, isn't he, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's going to be impact time. So would that be a big deal?
It's 2 things, isn't it? It's the impact time, but it's also getting back up to speed with England. Again, he's trained with them, he's been part of the collective, but he's not been out there during the World Cup.
Yeah, it'd be a big test, because you would imagine at some point he's going to have to come on and play a part. It could be in the 75th minute, it could be in the 5th minute. We just don't know how these games go. So to travel halfway around the world, to learn all the new system. I mean, he would have been in the squad. I know. He'd been preparing for a Premiership game this weekend. All of a sudden, you get a call. You're on the next flight to Japan. Get yourself to the airport, and you're straight into the squad. He would have known from the minute he got on the plane, or even before, that he was in the squad. He was going to be playing a World Cup final.
Have you done that trip? Would that trip take its toll to a certain extent? I mean, I'm sure it's the most cotton-wooled version that you could possibly manage with him, but it's still kind of got to get to you physically, mentally. It's got to affect your sleep, arguably.
Yeah, it is. But I think England would have prepared every single detail of that. I mean, I imagine he would have flown first class, so that always helps. Yeah. He would have got there. He would have done all his recovery protocols. They would have gradually built up his week so that probably by Tuesday, Wednesday, he was up and running fully and getting himself up to speed with what they're doing.
It's going to be interesting to see how that works out for sure. Let's hear it from Chris Robshaw, former England captain and, of course, key analyst for TalkSport and TalkSport 2. He says England are favourites, but he thinks it's a pretty much even game heading in.
Over the last calendar year, England have played South Africa 4 times. They've won 2 apiece. So this game is going to be very evenly matched. Look, England, I think, are going to go in their favourites, and rightly so, the way they've been performing. They've had an extra day recovery. No team has ever won a World Cup and lost the game as well, which that is South Africa. So there's a lot of things in England's favour. But the thing with the South Africans, they're extremely physical and they'll want to go out there and match out. They pride their game on that. They only know one way, and they play a very territorial game and a very physical game. We saw what they did to the Japanese. We saw what they did to the Welsh at times.
Yeah, it's a good point there, Topsy, from Chris, isn't it? The Japan game was very tight for about 50 minutes. The Wales game clearly could have gone either way, but they are good at grinding people down and finding a way if you give them the chance.
Yeah, it's a huge strength of theirs, and they've been very transparent in that. We are a big, strong, physical team, and ultimately we're going to wear you down. So Japan was the first example. They were brilliant, and we praised them, lauded them for their attacking intent and the way they moved the ball. But South African game was just a step too far, and I guess that showed that if South Africa do grow in confidence and are able to implement that physical nature of their game, slowing the breakdown huge big hits, then it's going to be very difficult for a team that wants to play fast. So England will need to be wary of that, and they'll need to be wary of that as well, and almost prepare for that. They might need to go to a plan B, even a plan C, if they're not getting their way.
Can you make a point against that, given the fact that, I mean, I'm going to assume for a start that what South Africa aren't going to do is surprise everybody, and suddenly they're going out for this fleet foot, attacking game, that this is definitely what they're going to do. Is there a way that you can kind of make a point very early on in the game, from an England point of view, saying, guess what, all this muscle doesn't matter?
But yeah, definitely, and I think that would have been part of the conversation this week. You've got a multitude of kickers in that team now, Ben Youngs, George Ford, Owen Farrell, Elliot Daly as well. So one tactic might be, right, we're just not going to give you anything to hit. We're going to keep kicking the ball for the first 15, 20 minutes.
Frustration.
All that aggression, all that, right, we're going to smash England, we're going to get off the line. All of a sudden, you spend 10 minutes chasing the ball. You get bored, you get frustrated. And when you do finally get that collision, are you mentally where you need to be? Technically, are you correct? You give away a penalty, your timing's off. So all these little details come into play.
Like it.
Now, we've got a TalkSport 2 Twitter poll out there. We like these. At TalkSport 2, please cast your vote. It's going to be live right up until the end of the show at 9 o'clock. Gentlemen, I'll get your thoughts. I've just casted my vote. We're asking you for predictions for both the bronze medal match and the final. So who will the two victorious nations, what pair of winning teams will it be out of the four possible combinations? So obviously, England take on South Africa on Saturday morning in the final. It's New Zealand-Wales on Friday morning in the bronze medal game. Game arguably that nobody wants to be in, but you've got to get through it. So, A, England and Wales as the winning teams of the two. B, England and New Zealand. C, South Africa and Wales. Or D, South Africa and New Zealand. Topsy Ojo.
I have voted.
Good.
So it's no turning back. Go on.
I'm committed. I've gone England and New Zealand.
Yeah, see, that's mine.
And mine.
But you made me question my vote because, of course, it is now of the two teams who cares somewhat slightly less than the other team to bother to win that third place game. How will both teams approach that? I mean, you don't want to lose, do you? But equally, you're clearly down and out.
Yeah, I understand. Emotionally, it's very tough.
Yeah.
But I think you need to find ways to really motivate yourself. Yeah. It's a World Cup game. It's a test match. Ultimately, you want to win. And also, there's some little sub-stories as well. A lot of really world-class players retiring. Steve Hansen is finishing. Kieran Reid is finishing. Alan Wynne-Jones is finishing. So for those guys as well, you don't want to finish on a sour note. We saw how upset...
Well, we'll do Wales now.
I think New Zealand...
I've gone too low.
New Zealand is so angry that they've lost a game at the Rugby World Cup.
Right.
They haven't done it since 2007, which is just utterly ridiculous. It was 18 games, wasn't it?
Yeah, huge streak.
They've lost a game, they're furious, and their strength in depth is such. You chuck in Ben Smith, Ryan Crotty, Sonny Bill Williams, these kind of guys.
I look at that team and I say, well...
It's actually arguably better.
Yeah, imagine that team in the semi-final, would it have been different? And then I look at the injuries that Wales have as well. They're pretty patched up going into this game, and I think New Zealand will run riot.
I totally agree.
I'm comfortable again now. Thank you.
So 70% of the nation think England and New Zealand. I thought this would be the most popular, but not by this much, blimey. 12% think England and Wales. 16% think South Africa and New Zealand. Just 2% think that South Africa and Wales can defy the odds and win their respective games. Very interesting. Keep your votes coming in. It's TalkSport 2 Live. It is the Rugby World Cup final preview show. In a moment, we'll take a look back at England's journey over the course of the competition so far. Pick out some of the key moments and key performers who could well star in the final come Saturday morning.
TalkSport 2 Live.
Movember Deadline Day on TalkSport. This Movember, whatever you grow will save a bro. Every moustache will raise awareness, raise funds, start conversations and save lives. Sign up at Movember.com and help change the face of men's health.
Things you try not to think about very much. Number 17. Like that time I turned up dressed as a sausage at the vegan Christmas treat fancy dress party. Ouch. Things you should think about more. Number 1. Your tyres. When did you last think about how safe your tyres are? Go on, try it now. I'll be back in a minute.
Imagine a boy walking, eyes down on his phone. You might see someone ignoring the world, but we see someone that can multitask. And there are complex operations taking place all across the world that need people like that. Your army needs you. Find where you belong. Sedge Army Jobs.
It's hard to enjoy your daily yoga routine when your mind is on your next VAT return. But with QuickBooks, the new VAT Smart Scan technology checks for errors and reviews VAT codes for you. So your biggest struggle is touching your forehead with your ankle.
Search for QuickBooks. Perfect for making tax digital. QuickBooks, backing you. Fall in love with the brand new iPhone 11 at Tesco Mobile. Take amazing photos with Apple's best ever ultra-wide lens camera. You can get the iPhone 11 for just $37.75 a month with no additional upfront costs. What's not to love? Search Tesco Mobile or visit us in store. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
36-month credit agreement, rolling monthly usage contract. Subject to status, phase policy applies. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Been thinking about your tyres? Thought not. But safe tyres save lives. Fit Continental's award-winning tyres so you'll stop when you need to stop. Rain, shine, sleet or snow. Performance braking wherever you go. For award-winning tyres with outstanding grip and performance, search Continental Tyres now.
Barnsley versus Bristol City. Kick-off 7:45 with chirpy chitter-chatter from 7. Only on the little radio station with the big reputation. TalkSport 2.
You're listening to TalkSport 2 Live.
But listening to TalkSport 2 Live, and it is our World Cup Rugby Final Special. Mark Webster's in the studio alongside Topsy Ojo, the London Irish and England wing of recent years. Guys, we're going to just take a proper look now back at England's route through to this final. Topsy, it's been fascinating, hasn't it? Had the massive and real disappointment and sorrow of having to play the game against France because of Typhoon Hagibis. Had that epic win against the All Blacks Australia, which was brilliant. And it all began weeks and weeks ago. It feels like an eternity ago, those first 3 group games, doesn't it?
It feels like a lifetime ago. USA, Tonga, Argentina. Yeah. You almost can't remember how those games went. And
well, they won.
Yeah, we know we won. There wasn't much to talk about in terms of performance. It was a bit, that was a bit laboured. England didn't really show us what we really wanted to see as fans watching. But, you know, I think maybe I said it to you as well. In these tournaments, as much as a player you are striving for your best performance every single week, you've just got to win the games. You win, I think, 7 games and you're lifting the trophy. So form and almost performance really goes out the window. If you win every single game, nobody's going to look back and say, oh, that England team, they didn't play that well. They won't. They'll say they won it. They did what they needed to do. They got the result and they got over the line. And that's all that's mattered. And that's probably been the story of this England team. It's been a slow burner. They've got better and better. See, Australia was impressive. New Zealand, unbelievably impressive. Now, can they do it on the big stage?
Missing a game, does that help or hinder the momentum of it? I guess if you're removing those many minutes from your body in a tournament, and of course, you know, the reason it's tough to remember the qualifying games, because in a rugby tournament, you need lots of space between, you need rest days, don't you?
Yeah, you do. There's so many games packed into a short space of time, so as much as the guys named in that team, there were a few changes, would have been not playing out well in terms of it gave England an extra week's preparation time. Any little niggles, Billy Vunipola was carrying a knock, that gave him time to really recover and get back to full form and fitness. And it just gave them extra time to prepare as well, because they pretty much were nailed on as group winners. They knew more or less they were going to face Australia, so you get ahead of your analysis. It means players could really focus in to what was coming ahead.
Right. Well, let's get the thoughts on that exact regard of 2007 World Cup finalist and former Sale and England wing, Mark Quater.
The game that got cancelled, I think, has been a blessing in disguise. You know, certainly looking again back at that New Zealand performance, for me, 5-10 minutes in, you know, with 7-10 on the scoreboard, and straight away you're thinking, right, you know, the tempo was different level. I've never seen a team play at that tempo, you know, for so long. But you're always panicking and worrying, you know, and you know the All Blacks are going to get back into the game at some point. But they never did. You know, England managed to keep that intensity, that aggression, the discipline, the tempo, literally till that final whistle. It was the sharpest they've looked, it was the fittest they've looked throughout the whole competition, and I'm sure a lot of that is down to having that added week off.
Yeah, would you agree with that? Fair comment from Quates?
Yeah, 100%.
He's a fellow winger, so obviously you're going to back him, aren't you?
Well, yeah, that too. But he's absolutely right, because it just gives you that extra bit of time to freshen up. I mean, England would have wanted to win that game, but there was no pressure on them to get a result. They got the job done against Argentina previously, so they were in the quarterfinals. I think, as Quates is absolutely right, a huge blessing, and they made the most of it, gave them extra preparation time, and that proved dividends in that Australia game.
Have the games that we've seen given you, watching outside, enough time for everybody involved in the squad that you feel comfortable? I mean, obviously, injuries withstanding, as we've touched on earlier, but do you think everyone's kind of like is nicely ready if required?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's a funny one because when I look at it, right, you've got the 31 players in the squad, and I guess the group stages when the games are closer together, you are trying to manage that load, try and give everybody a fair crack. But I think once it gets to that last group game, if there's something riding on it, and definitely quarterfinals through, there's very minimal selections. You know, we haven't seen McConaughey, we haven't seen Piers Francis, Coconut-Singer's not featured since the group, so...
Despite being one of the Discovery players.
Absolutely, Discovery player up for an award, and we haven't seen him. So you do get to the later stages, and the guys will probably understand that unless there is an injury or a real issue with form, you're likely to play a supporting role, but it's equally as important.
In practice with rugby, is your role as a squad man important during training sessions?
100%. It's a role that you don't really want to play because you are desperate to be on the pitch, but particularly in a World Cup campaign where you are away together for this long a period, you can't have somebody, for want of a better word, being that negative guy. Why aren't I getting picked? Really dragging the mood down.
We'll talk to you on that for a second. I'm not saying that either are that person, but to be careful it didn't factor into that situation. The likes of Mike Brown and Ben Teo fell out in Italy in that training camp. Cut.
Yeah, and Eddie's shown himself to be very ruthless in that respect, that he won't tolerate anything that could detract from his squad even 1%. And one incident for him, suddenly he's cut, and you think, wow, is that a bit harsh? But so Eddie had the long-term game in mind, and Cipriani might even come into that conversation in terms of Ford and Farrell have been his mainstays for his whole tenure. Would Cipriani be happy in the squad as a third-choice 10? Obviously, he would love to be there, but would you want him as a third-choice 10 knowing that in his heart of hearts he feels that he should be on the pitch? I'm not so sure.
Now, Mark, you asked about the England mentality going into the weekend. Do you want to hear somebody who's bang up for it? How about the Saracens in England number 8, the wrecking ball that is Billy Vunipola, telling the South Africans, bring it on.
They're very big people, but then again, we've got a few big blokes on our team, so they've already come out and said that they're going to fight fire with fire, and I guess we return serve by saying, I guess bring it on. It's a final. It's one of those things you have to front up to, and it's one of their biggest assets, so something that we've been working on, but like Elias mentioned, they've got many different threats just as well as their forward pack.
He's going to have a massive role to play, isn't he? Either side of the two jackals in the back row in Curry and Underhill, Billy Vunipola's power and ball carrying to counteract and balance that is massive for this game.
Yeah, he's got a big after big game coming up at the weekend. I think as England's main ball carrying threat in that pack, expect every time he carries to see at least 2, if not 3 South African defenders trying to line him up, especially early on. I like the banter back and forth, setting the stage already for that first collision that's going to happen. It is going to be pretty huge, and Billy's got a huge role to play in that. He needs to get England on the front foot. He needs to get South Africa going backwards and to say, right, we are in this fight and we're going to keep coming.
Has you've been happy the way he's been delivering thus far?
Yeah. He's got there, definitely. I think, again, a slow burner, as with the rest of the team, but again, we don't have a specialist number 8 in the squad outside of him, so it's been important to look after him, but he's got the more he's played, and I think we've seen that in the last couple of games, and hopefully we see that even more on Saturday.
That features so much, and you just touched on a little bit earlier there, is so much of what I've heard Eddie Jones talk about is exactly that. He only talks in the 4-year time frame, doesn't he? He's not discussed anything like, squad selection, warm-up games. Everything it has, it goes back 1,000 days, doesn't it? And now, whether hindsight's a very useful weapon in this situation, and he's in the final, so it looks like a master plan. But do you genuinely believe that? I mean, and I suppose this touches on the fact that, as you say, he's tweaked his squad to fit what he thinks is going to be the most harmonious way of doing it. Do you think he genuinely has worked this 4-year cycle?
It's a genius, isn't it?
Yeah, fair dues.
I don't know whether some of this is not to say luck, but he's fallen back into one or two things he discarded. There's one or two other bits that he's almost forced his hand, but you're right, it is working out.
Yeah, I'd say majority of it has been planned. I mean, his mantra, his running tagline has been "Judge me on the World Cup." I think some things have forced his hand, injury, but it's worked out in that if you look at this England team now, where he's got them and where they're performing, is there anybody else who would get into that team right now on current form and fitness?
Yeah. See, I felt so sorry a few weeks ago for the likes of Chris Robshaw, who after injury had come back and had been playing equally as well as he had previously when he was in the team, let alone the squad. Someone like Danny Kerr, I know now injured, but had been neck and neck with Ben Youngs. It's like a joint first scrum half, and then he's cut from the squad. Dylan Hartley, I know, has had his knee problems. He's gone. Now, who's went? Brownie, you've touched on. Brutal.
Yeah, very. It's like you say, just going through those names, it's a bit like they're just in and they're out.
It's a really good team back here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, if you put the two of them side by side, you'd be like, right, who's going to win out of these?
Yeah, Cipriani playing 10.
Yes.
A lot of those guys we just mentioned.
Danny Kerr at 9, Mike Brown at fullback.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they're on the bench. Put Joe on one wing. Jack Knowles injured, I guess, so he doesn't feature. But
they give England a great game, those boys.
We're going to talk more Eddie Jones in detail in a second and really kind of pick out a little bit of what he has done to get England back on track, because a year ago it was all falling apart after 2 largely successful opening years. He managed to stop that bleed, stop that downward spiral and get things back on track. We'll discuss why in a couple of minutes right here on TalkSport 2. TalkSport 2 Live on our 2019 Rugby World Cup final preview special.
TalkSport 2 Live.
Movember Deadline Day on TalkSport. This Movember, you don't have to grow to save a bro. You can also move and commit to walking or running 60 kilometres. Sign up at Movember.com and help change the face of men's health.
On a child's bedroom window, a little wall crawler spots a skyscraper on the far side of town. Determined to reach it, the little wall crawler slowly and surely begins to climb down. Out of the window, along rooftops and branches, the wall crawler hurries, sure-footed and swift, till finally reaching the distant skyscraper. In one single bound, it jumps into the lift. It rides to the rooftop and stares at the view, where now in the sunshine, the whole city gleams. Then over the edge goes the little wall crawler, to crawl down the wall of the wall crawler's dreams. Determination can get you where you want to be. At Royal London, we're customer owned, so our only focus is getting you there. Pensions, investments, life insurance. Royal London, determination since 1861.
Royal London. Hey, Philip Schofield here. WeBuyAnyCar.com reckon you could find out what your car's worth in under 60 seconds. I know, I didn't believe it myself, so I timed it. And it's true, it actually took me only 53 seconds. Not that it's a race. So if you want to find out how much your car's worth, or just want to beat my time, enter your reg number now at WeBuyAnyCar.com. Think I might give it another go. 49, get in.
Admin fee may apply. For more information, see WeBuyAnyCar.com/info.
She did it! Her first word! Go on, say it again for Mummy. Baba. Mama. Oh. Savings. Did you hear that?
Savings account.
Teaching your kids how to save and learning good habits and skills from an early age.
I'm Russell Hargreaves alongside Mark Webster and the former England and London Irish wing Topsy Ocho. It is our Rugby World Cup final preview special, all ahead of Saturday morning in Yokohama, England up against South Africa for the right to lift the William Webb Ellis Trophy. Extended updates across TalkSport and TalkSport 2. 2003 World Cup winner Steve Thompson alongside myself. We've also got our team out in Japan as well, Ollie Hunter, alongside former England centre Tom Mate. We're right across all of the game for you, and across tomorrow morning's match as well, Wales versus New Zealand. That the bronze match, the third, fourth place playoff. We'll preview that a little bit later on in the show. We are talking all things Eddie Jones at the moment, though, and guys, there's one comment, one brutal put down from Eddie Jones this week that sums it all up for me about how you just don't want to tussle and cross this guy. Eddie hitting back at Wales head coach Warren Gatland when he suggested England might have peaked too soon.
Well, guys, can you just send my best wishes to Warren and make sure he enjoys the third and fourth playoff.
There you have it.
Ouch.
Absolutely brutal.
Deservedly so. I think, he's got no place commenting on England. It's just a cheap shot, really. And Eddie's right to respond. Okay, you don't want the focus to be on that, but I just think there was no need, and I think that's the right response.
Russ, you speak to him a lot post-match, and it's always you've always talked about the fact that there's something of a free act play. Is that the approaching of you get to the moment when the interview's going to happen, then there's an interview. Then there's stuff that happens after an interview.
It's very, very
now, of course, we're all privy to the bits that happen that's the middle act. We're all here. But it's a relationship. You haven't got a terrible relationship with him, but he's an unusual character to work with, isn't he?
He is. If you go too hard and really try and take him down, he basically just spits you out. He eats you alive. I always remember one of our colleagues from the BBC, a very, very senior sports news correspondent who was sent to one media conference to try and kind of throw a few hand grenades in there.
Yeah.
Just got spat out, eaten alive. It was brutal. And he's somebody that if you can try and talk to in the right way, where you want an answer and you're quite insistent, but you do it in a relatively open way that can engage him.
Yeah.
And if he tries to deflect, if you can come back quickly, so you've got to be thinking on your feet, and with a good way to try and get him to say it again, he might just crack eventually and give you the answer that you want. I remember once having a big chat with him, and I kept asking question after question in public about the whole Ben Youngs Dan Danny Care thing, and he eventually begrudgingly said that Ben Youngs was his first choice 9. And about 20 minutes later, I walked past him in the corridor at the England training camp, and he just went and went out, "I gave you your answer in the end, mate." And I just thought, fair enough. So that's kind of part 3 of the play. It can happen.
Mutual respect. You're like, yes, I got it.
Then he chewed me alive 2 days later.
Because I think, I think perhaps people who don't know him inside the game probably underestimate him because he's kind of this little bulldog-faced fella, and you kind of think he's like, he's a man of few words, and when he does say them, it's often through gritted teeth. But there's a lot more going on with him, isn't there, than that? You'd be underestimating him horribly.
There is. It's all smoke and mirrors. I mean, I'd say he would put on a front a lot of the time, and what he says in public to the media is a completely different message behind closed doors. I mean, if you talk to any of the players about their relationship with him, they absolutely love him. They say he's brilliant, he's cracking jokes, he's doing this, he's just he's a good man to be around. So I would imagine in the press conferences when he's front and centre and he's getting questions that he maybe feels are attacking his players or attacking something that he's trying to do, the wall comes up straight away and he's like, nope, not having it. And then he's very quick-witted now. That's when the wit comes back. He's firing the answers back and forth, and he's saying, nope, not having it, not having it.
Brian Clough in his pomp was that kind of boss, wasn't he? Where he almost treats those situations as ways of sharpening his claws. They're a little bit of entertainment for himself, just to keep himself on his toes.
And he's somebody as well that, as we alluded to before the break, guys, has had such a kind of checkered time in the sense that the first 2 years were a massive success. Year 3, England's worst finish ever since the Six Nations has been the Six Nations. A run of defeats. All appear to be going wrong. And historically in Eddie's career, be it with Australia, be it South Africa, be it at club level, Japan may be the one exception, he has struggled at some point and then not been able to turn it back around, if you see what I mean. So the fact he has this time is all the more remarkable, I feel.
I think so. And I think in any coach's tenure, unless maybe you're Saracens or someone like that, there will always come a period where you are tested. Almost where somebody figures you out, figures your team out, figures your players out.
Things go a bit flat.
And then again, in international rugby, the pressure comes on, the scrutiny. Everybody's questioning your selections, your decision, your coaching. So everything that you trust and hold dear, it might even get to the point where you start to question it. So it takes real mental strength and real almost belief and trust in what you're doing to say, look, okay, we've hit a bump in the road. That doesn't detract from the end goal. And then talking about what we were saying earlier, this 4-year cycle, he always said it's about the World Cup. So, yes, they blew the Grand Slam in Cardiff, in Dublin. Hugely disappointing results for everybody involved and thinking, all right, here we go again. It's not going to be our time, our year. But he's turned it around, and credit to him for that.
You don't often hear it said in terms of coaches, because I think the adage old dogs new tricks tends to apply, because, of course, that's where you are in your career. But do you think that he has improved, therefore? And I guess the point would be during this 4-year period, because, as you say, if he's kind of hit a similar wall each time in the past, the only thing you're meant to do from that is work out how you get over or around that wall, isn't it?
Or leave, or get sacked.
Yeah, exactly. Or before you get a chance to actually try and fix it, you're gone. Yeah,
Jose Mourinho, we've made this analogy a couple of times, haven't we?
Yeah, exactly. Where someone who clearly has a kind of body clock or a timetable that works, and even they don't know how to get past a certain point.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess football's a funny one. It's probably the reverse. In that football, you get no time.
Yeah, true.
The pressure, the scrutiny, the fans screaming, get rid of him, kick him out. It's almost unbearable. I think rugby, there is definitely a bit more grace. And I think in the international game as well, I mean, I would need to double check, but not too many coaches tend to leave in that period. Right. You're given time, you're given resources to say, like, right, you're a new coach coming in. You're not going to turn things around, or you're not going to put your own stamp on things in a year, maybe even 2 years. So you are given a lot of time.
You kind of nominate your departure, don't you, more often than not? When you see a leaving date, it's actually the coach who's given it rather than their respective association, isn't it? So.
Yeah, it's a really, really good point. Let's hear then from a couple of the players who either are still being picked by Eddie in one case or aren't in another. Elliot Daly, the England fullback, full of praise for his boss.
He's been amazing over the last 3-4 years. He's been coaching us. I think you always get honesty from Eddie. You know exactly where you stand, and he's played and he's coached against so many teams. He knows exactly, come Monday morning, how we're going to beat the team on the weekend, and we all buy into that, and it's worked so far in the tournament, and hopefully we can do it again this Saturday.
And Topsy, that's a key point. He is meticulous, isn't he, in his preparation? He is such a relentless and tireless worker and taskmaster. He works everybody hard, and that includes his assistants, the likes of Paul Gustard, deciding to move on.
Yeah, he sets the standard, and he's the first man. He's done all his homework, so he sets the tone for his coaches and then the players as well, so that at the end of the week, there's no excuses. You saw him in the crowd. He was there taking notes. Him and John Mitchell in the semi-final, they were there, not talking to each other, just scribbling away frantically, getting their preparations underway.
Far cry from Roy Hodgson, ahead of when he should have been watching Iceland.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yes. I guess to keep up with him, and as you say, you know, the victims have fallen by the wayside. I suppose it must be full commitment then, isn't it? I mean, basically, you're always on the end of the phone, aren't you?
You are. It's a 24/7 job, really. I mean, there's no rest up. You win one game, you're immediately focusing on the next. I would imagine 5 minutes after that New Zealand victory, he's thinking, right, I need to be at the next semi-final tomorrow, getting my team ready so that come Monday morning, after the players have rested and recovered, we're ready to go.
God, there's going to be a lot of men just looking to relax in about 2 days, aren't there?
Oh, it's going to...
Unless, of course, he says, right, next 4 years.
Well, they've all got to come back for the Premiership season.
Exactly.
There's
no rest.
Premiership season, European games around the corner. It's pretty relentless stuff this year.
And he's supposedly got 1 more year in charge. That's the plan.
That's interesting.
Where he then hopefully also seeds a successor in.
Right, that would be the plan, would it? Yeah.
A, who that is, nobody knows who wants it. And B, will Eddie do it? If they, Topsy, win the World Cup, will he just go, do you know what, I'm going to leave on a high? I think if they got battered at the World Cup, he possibly would have been sacked. They win it, I think he will say, I can't take them any further.
Yeah.
If they go out and about the semis or possibly lose the final, so an acceptable effort, is that where he stays on for that year?
Honestly, at this point, I think it's down to him, because there is no standout successor.
No, because people say someone like Rob Baxter at Exeter Chiefs, but certainly rumours are he doesn't necessarily want it at the moment.
Every time I've seen him asked about it, he says, I love the club game. I love that constant interaction with the players, that day-to-day focus, which I remember speaking to Mike Catt about that. He said the one thing he misses from club to international is that constant access to the players, to really develop them, to really spend that quality time with them and just get to coach them a bit more. So, again...
Yeah, guess what the worst job in the world is? Taking over from Eddie Jones' World Cup winning England team. That's a hard act to fight. You wouldn't mind being the guy after.
Yeah.
But the guy straight away, that's a big ask, isn't it?
You look at 03, so Clive Woodward stayed on for a bit, didn't he? Then it all went flat. Poor old Andy Robinson, who'd effectively tactically masterminded the win, then took over, and it wasn't really his bag. And from there, through Brian Ashton, bless him, and somehow getting to the 07 final, which we'll come on to later, it's been a real mixed bag over the years. Martin Johnson didn't really want it, but came and saved his country and took over as the former captain, didn't he? Then he had the Lancaster time of it. It's a bit of a checkered history. Not many people have taken the job and then gone on and been better afterwards as a result.
And you kind of think, you kind of think he'd be the fella sitting next to him now, wouldn't you? If there's this kind of year transition, and if he really I could see the idea that he might want to play a few domestic games. Hail to the chief, and he comes home and we see the World Cup winning boys, and why wouldn't you have a kind of farewell tour? But you kind of feel that the incumbent would be there now, wouldn't you?
Well, if you're thinking forward planning and legacy, yes, because if he takes this year to almost get a successor ready, that's a year into the next 4-year cycle, and can he maintain that momentum? Can he maintain that high with everybody knowing that he's leaving pretty soon? So who's actually going to be in charge? Is it going to be Eddie, even though he's still there, or is it going to be whoever he names? So that becomes quite an interesting dynamic.
True.
So we've heard from Elliot Daly, who obviously has to say nice things about his boss, or he'll drop him. Somebody who has been dropped is Chris Robshaw, who could have been much more scathing if he wanted, but he wasn't.
His man management is the best I've worked with in terms of how he gets the best out of it, with stuff like that. But also, every morning he'll come into, say, our breakfast room, and we'll have lots of different tables scattered around, and he'll acknowledge every single person in the room, whether it's his top coach, his captain, the kit man, to a guy who's just come in for the first time. He'll give everyone time. He treats everyone differently, whether it's giving guys responsibility, having a bit of a laugh with them, just having a quiet word, being quiet with them. And he has this ability, like I said, to get the best out of people when they need to.
Chris Robshaw's take there, a man, as we say, was brutally cut.
Yeah, that's very complimentary.
Wasn't it?
Very, very nice. Almost too nice. You think, I could have been in this World Cup final. I could have been there. But
trying to lay the ghost of 4 years ago, let's not forget, for Chris, of all people, obviously, rightly or wrongly, was seen as one of the real failures of why England didn't make it out of the group stages, which I still think was wrong, but a lot would disagree and say that he had a big role to play.
Yeah, I mean, he was in there. He was in that squad for a long period, and then to almost fall in that last year. He was almost a bit too nice.
Yeah, Eddie Jones called Chris Robshaw more recently, obviously, than the World Cup. So about 18 months ago, he said he's the glue. The glue were the exact words he said to me of my back row. Then one injury, couldn't get back in. Mark Wilson's form, I think. Then obviously this new balance of Curry and Underhill. Bunapola was always going to be there if he was fit, but there was probably still room for him. Maybe Lewis Ludlam's the other one who's possibly coming and taking that place.
We probably all expected him to come in at some point, but again, with how competitive, and I think mentally with the competition that Eddie's driven in this squad. I mean, remember him saying he wants players to be hungry to play for England. So if you're unfortunately out injured, somebody's going to snatch your shirt and you're going to have a hard time trying to get it back. And those names there, Wilson, Underhill, Curry, have just come in and lit the place up and said, right, it's our time now. Your time is done. And as harsh and ruthless as that is, they're in the final. So
Brad Shields is fit now as well, of course, and can't get back in too.
Yeah, another one.
Flown all the way from New Zealand to be an England player.
But you know what? It's like every Broadway show, every boy band you put to every single... It all boils down to you're a hit, you're number one, you win the World Cup, and every decision is justified, isn't it? Yeah. After the weekend. That's it. I mean, it's impossible for anyone to really argue. But God, you really do hang your hat on your own on your own ability to make these judgments, then, don't you?
That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
Exactly. There you go.
And they are big bucks, aren't they?
They are.
6 million worth, isn't it?
Perhaps you just found out why he's staying on a year, Russ.
Nearly as much as Mark Webster's show fee, believe you me.
We're lucky.
Going to chat Owen Farrell's captaincy in a couple of moments' time, and also just go away from rugby briefly because there's some major developments in the Granit Xhaka situation at Arsenal. We'll touch on that in a second too. Right here on TalkSport 2 Live, it's our Rugby World Cup 2019 final preview special.
TalkSport 2 Live.
Movember deadline day on TalkSport. This Movember, whatever you grow will save a bro. Sign up at Movember.com and help change the face of men's health.
At your local Dulux Decorator Centre, we know you've got enough to deal with when you're prepping for a job. So when you said, I want to have everything I need when I start a job, we said, no problem. That's why we keep all the essentials in stock waiting for you whenever you need them. Which all goes to prove, at Dulux Decorator Centre, it's you that's number one. Head over to your local store or duluxdecoratorcentre.co.uk to find out more. Dulux Decorator Centre. Centred on you.
Sorry, Stevie's a bit poorly, so he won't be coming to nursery today.
Okay, thanks for letting us know.
So I brought Max instead. I packed his favourite toy. He normally naps twice a day and loves playing outside.
Like getting your money's worth? Enjoy the delicious cheeseburger. Just 99p from the McDonald's Saver menu. From 10:30am, except in selected restaurants from 11am. Price and participation may vary.
You probably don't think you could afford a better van, right? You can't have seen the latest offers from these guys then.
What's that coming over the hill, Van Monster?
At Van Monster, you can choose from hundreds of top-quality, affordable used vans, like Mercedes-Benz Sprinters from just $9,995 plus VAT. And because it's Van Monster, they all come with a free 6-month warranty and flexible finance, and nationwide delivery from just £99 plus 20% VAT. See vanmonster.com to find out more. Conditions apply.
Coffee shop, cashback, cat flaps, cashback, beanbags, rucksack, hire car, buy a car, flapjack, cashback, dumbbells, cashback, takeaway, holiday to anywhere the sun is at, bum bag, laptop, big match, hatchback, binge watching, paintballing, crab fishing, cashback, anything you want to buy, everywhere you want to go. Guess what? Cashback. Whatever you spend your money on, get money back every time with the American Express Platinum Cashback Everyday Credit Card. Search Amex Cashback. Representative 22.9% APR variable. Minimum annual spend to receive cashback. Terms apply. 18 plus subject to approval.
Game day this Saturday.
Arsenal versus Wolves. Kick-off 3pm on TalkSport 2. Official broadcast partner of the Premier League.
You're listening to TalkSport 2 Live.
TalkSport 2 Live, it is our Rugby World Cup final preview special. Me alongside Mark Webster and Topsy Ojo, the former London Irish and England wing. We'll talk England's skipper Owen Farrell in just a moment. But before that, major developments at Arsenal in the last few minutes. As I'm sure everybody knows, Granit Xhaka, the Arsenal captain, has been thus for just over a month. That very forthright reaction, shall we say, last Sunday, substituted during that 2-2 draw against Crystal Palace at Emirates Stadium when the Gunners had chucked away a 2-goal lead, as we know, swearing, cupping his hands to his ears, chucking off his shirt, going down the tunnel, all of that. A fairly toxic response to a fairly toxic atmosphere. Finally, Granit Xhaka has spoken about it. He has given a statement on Instagram, and I'll read it to you in full. After taking some time to reflect on what happened on Sunday afternoon, I'd like to give you an explanation rather than just a quick response. The scenes that took place around my substitution have moved me deeply. I love this club and will always give 100% on it and off the pitch as well. My feelings of not being understood by fans and repeated abusive comments at matches and in social media over the past weeks and months have all hurt me deeply. People have said things like, "We will break your legs. We will kill your wife. We wish that your daughter gets cancer." That has stirred me up, and it reached boiling point when I felt the rejection in the stadium on Sunday. In this situation, Granit Xhaka's statement continues, I let myself be carried away. I reacted in a way that disrespected the group of fans that support our club, our team and myself with positive energy. That has not been my intention, and I'm sorry if that's what people thought. My wish is that we get back to a place of mutual respect, remembering why we fell in love with this game in the first place. Let's move forward positively together. And it's signed just the word Granit. That's the statement of Arsenal club captain Granit Xhaka. Mark Webster, I'll come to you first. Very strong, very honest and frank. But it's not a full apology. I'm sorry if that's what people thought. And I'm sorry that I've disrespected the positive energy within the stadium and those who are positive fans. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I mean, we can't, there's no way anyone's apologising for idiots who choose to make such caustic, toxic statements through social media. And I have to say, I think that is one thing. I think what happens inside the arena of a football stadium, where emotions are sort of like pouring out, arguably is another. And what I mean by that is the fact that not everybody was booing him, and he chose to react to that element of booing. The manner in which he did it, and I think you'll find that just if you would check those words again, I really don't think he's justified the way he reacted. I think he's somewhat fudged the way he reacted in the way that he's described. I think it's the implication being he was being misinterpreted.
Yeah, I'll just go through that quick bit again.
Yeah.
I let myself be carried away and reacted in a way that disrespected the group of fans that support our club, our team, myself with positive energy. That was not my intention, and I'm sorry if that's what people thought. That's quite a selective apology, Topsy, for me.
Exactly right, because basically, I'm sorry, but my point would be his reaction is at the very least intimidating to people who hadn't made that noise in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's the one. I think it's almost like he's saying to the fans that actually do support him, the ones that didn't boo, he's sorry for displaying a message that felt he disrespected the club, taking off the armband, throwing off his shirt. In the heat of the moment, he got carried away. I also think what he is saying in there, and probably it's not a full apology, but basically some of these words, I mean, if somebody said that about you, there's a person underneath all of this, and if you take the professional footballer away, you wouldn't go around saying that to somebody in the street.
100% agree.
So you can't get away with doing that on social media, and those few that have got at him have forced a reaction, which unfortunately has spilled out into the wider Arsenal community. But it's basically saying that you can't speak to people that way, whether in real life, whether don't hide behind social media and abuse people, abuse their families. If it was just him, he could maybe probably wear it, but you're talking about his wife and his kids, that's a step too far.
But the problem he's got is that there was only one real way for him to deal with that situation. Is get his head down and run off that pitch as quick as he possibly
could. The other thing, of course, the fact he kind of laboured his way off it didn't help.
To a certain extent, he was provocative, and or perhaps even to quite a large extent, he was provocative. But again, you have to underline the fact I would never condone booing players in the crowd, and certainly as you say there, Topsy, the online abuse is just well beyond. I mean, it's criminal.
As we take this back to rugby, just for a second, Topsy, have you or any of your ex-colleagues ever, at any point, not to maybe this degree clearly, but have you ever suffered as a collective or as an individual from anything like this? Or
me personally, I've been very fortunate in that I've never had to deal with it, but I know people who have, and as much as you put on a brave face, social media has its good points and its bad points, and you go home, you see reactions on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever it is, and it does hurt, and especially when it's not just about you, it goes into your family and your friends, and actually, because a lot of your family will be on social